I'll call to order the Tuesday, November 1st, 2022 Town Council regular meeting to order at 6:37. Clerk McCousher.
Councilors Bordelon, Baumgarter, Cassieri, Franco, Jones, McBride, Parker, Westervelt, and of course the mayor, Melendez.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Would everyone please rise for the salute to the flag?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. On to recognitions, awards, and memorials. Proclamation honoring Charles Carl Leo Grand's 100th birthday. Counselor, sorry. Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Proclamation recognizing Charles Carl Leo Grand, whereas we gather today to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Mystic River Basque Bridge, and whereas the Mystic River Basque Bridge is the oldest Basque bridge in the United States, and whereas we also take this time to honor Carl Leo Grand on the momentous occasion of his 100th birthday this past January, and whereas we thank Carl for his service to our country as a World War II Army veteran serving as a medic in Germany, whereas Carl is known as an admirable, active, and caring person in and around his Mystic neighborhood. Now therefore be it resolved that the Groton Town Council, on behalf of the citizens of Groton, does hereby congratulate Carl Leo Grand and wish him much happiness during his centennial year, dated at Groton, Connecticut, this 15th day of October, 2022. Mayor, Town of Groton, Leo Juan Melendez. Thank you.
Thank you. Proclamation recognizing Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Counselor Franco.
Thank you. Proclamation recognizing Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas, according to recent data, lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer death among men and women of the United States, accounting for more deaths than colon cancer, breast cancer, and prostate cancer combined. And whereas screening of lung cancer for high-risk individuals using low-dose computed tomography can lead to the earliest detection of lung cancer and save lives. And whereas this screening reduced the mortality by 20% when compared to screening by chest x-ray in the National Lung Screening Trial, and reducing the risk of death by 10 years by 24% in men and 33% in women, as demonstrated by another large randomized trial. And whereas funding for lung cancer research trails far behind funding for research for many other cancers, and additional research is needed in early diagnosis, screening, and treatment for lung cancer. And whereas lung cancer incidence is decreasing twice as fast in men as it is in women, and whereas African Americans have the highest lung cancer incidence and mortality of all races, and the disparities in lung cancer screening, diagnosis, treatment lead to a higher mortality. And whereas the stigma surrounding lung cancer creates barriers to early diagnosis, treatment, and funding for research, has a detrimental impact on the quality of life of people diagnosed with lung cancer, and hinders awareness of and research into lung cancer risk factors other than smoking. And whereas organizations such as the American Lung Cancer Screening Initiative and Women's Lung Cancer Forum are committed to educating about lung cancer and lung cancer screening and working to increase lung cancer screening rates. Now therefore be resolved that the Groton Town Council does hereby proclaim November 2022 as Lung Cancer Awareness Month, and for the town of Groton, and recognize the need for research in lung cancer affecting women and lung cancer health disparities, and encourage all citizens to learn about lung cancer and early detection through lung cancer screening. Dated at Groton, Connecticut, this first day of November 2022, Mayor of the Town of Groton, Juan Melendez Jr.
Thank you. We have no public hearings, so on to receipt of citizens' petitions, comments, and concerns. Receipt of citizens' petitions is the portion of the council meeting where the council welcomes comments from citizens. To address the council, please sign the sheet on the table at the front of the meeting room. When you are recognized by the mayor, please approach the podium, clearly state your name and address for the record, and speak into the microphone. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments. Presentation should be related to matters pertinent to Groton. To speak during this portion of the meeting via Zoom, please email council@groton-ct.gov by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Okay, so first on my list, I have Valerie Levy. Oh, I think she's gonna have to.
Can you do it from here?
Oh, I thought John was doing that. She didn't move over. There we go. There she goes. Tell her she's got the floor.
It's John.
Valerie Levy, you have the floor.
She's muted herself.
You're muted if you're trying to speak.
Remember, there's a delay.
Okay. Valerie, you're muted if if you're trying to speak right now.
I can't do anything in that. I don't have any controls. Well, you'd have to go on then.
Are you able to do it?
She's
Okay, you're unmuted now.
Are you able to do it from there? No.
Hello? Valerie Levy, you have the floor. Okay, so we'll skip to Eugenia Villagra. Are you able to speak?
I apologize. Is
Okay.
someone speaking to me?
Yes, you have the floor.
Okay. I greatly apologize. It's very hard to hear you guys. Can you- Okay. I want to thank any and all council members or how do you say, not just the council members, but anyone else involved who put up with my emails. I apologize. It's not the greatest time for me. It's rather embarrassing, but it's been also very, very scary recently. No, I need to be able to speak, please. Can you please go watch Blippi? I need to be able to speak, please. Oh, sorry. I'll be right there, okay? Does anybody know what narcissistic triangulation is? So, Mr. John Burt relayed an email to me, to us, to all of us, saying that, Susan, can you please give me a few minutes? I need a few minutes, pretty please. Saying Susan from HOU was claiming that they were waiting for the hotel staff to enter in the extensions for the residents at the hotels. But I showed that to the manager who is in charge of that, and she had told me that is not how things work. I also, no, I need you to hold it, please, okay? Thank you. Go ahead and go. Please go. I apologize. When it comes to the whole hotel stays. I hope that it was helpful for everybody else to get a better understanding of what is going on by doing all of those emails. And thank you for all of the help. But what is being done by either Related or anybody who is hired by Related is they're telling the hotel staff one thing. They're telling attorneys another thing. They're telling residents another thing. And they are also telling you guys another thing and whoever else involved. And then they're pinning us against each other. And it is really, really, really scary to do business with people like this. And something that I have stated before is that I have lived in HUD properties for the past 10 plus years. The prior property I lived at was built in the 70s, very similar to this property. That property, and I apologize, but I just want to repeat this, like, you know, I have mentioned previously. The property in Port Orchard, Washington, it became encased with mold because they built everything too airtight, according to my prior manager at the time. They installed ventilation into the exterior walls. First, they, you know, removed all the residents, cleaned up the, you know, complex, installed the ventilation. You know, she pointed to the things on the walls, and she said, ever since then, we've never had a problem. And other HUD properties have been able to come up with solutions, but the previous meeting I went to, when I mentioned about the particular paint that is used when it comes to when people have remedied rooms from mold, and then when they come back through and paint, they don't know what I'm talking about, and it's very frustrating that people don't know what I'm talking about. Or like previously when Ledge Light was here to speak with you guys, they said, you know, we don't just allow people to paint over the mold, it needs to be remedied. And so, but when the company doesn't know
30 seconds remaining.
about the proper paint and other things, or the ventilation, when I try to mention it to them in other meetings and they don't understand what I'm saying, it's very, very frustrating. And what, oh no, I knew there was, what else was I gonna say? I'm sorry, I'm really tired. My daughter was up all night. But
Okay, unfortunately, your time has expired. If you have additional comments, you can submit them to the clerk, and they'll be placed on the record. Thank you.
I can't understand what you're saying.
Can you understand what I'm saying?
A little bit. You guys kind of are cutting in and out a lot.
Yeah, maybe you need to turn your microphone up. But what Mayor Melendez stated was if you have additional comments, you may submit them to my office, Town Clerk's office.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Eugenia Villagra.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Good evening. My name is Eugenia Villagra, and I'm actually out in California representing Groton Conservation Advocates to ask that you consider augmenting the protection, not development, of Groton's forested areas because of the vitally important role old growth forests play in mitigating or alleviating climate change. Studies such as the one published in August 2020 in Science magazine have demonstrated the importance of trees for storing or sequestering carbon. But the greatest increase in carbon storage capacity comes from old growth forests, not young, newly planted trees. It can take a seedling tree up to 100 years to grow to full maturity. Groton's existing climate mitigation and carbon reduction policies currently do not, but should include the systematic protection of mature forests. We urge you to protect existing forested areas on elementary school properties such as Pleasant Valley School, for just one example. GCA has reviewed the town-owned property map that the Conservation Commission put together using town data. We noted that town-owned property comprises mostly small bits of land, while larger tracts come under the purview of Public Works or the school system. We consider Public Works lands unofficially protected for now, but the town has sold or is selling several old elementary school properties containing significant forest cover, and they are located mostly on the west side of town, where there is far less open space than on the east side of town. Rather than cut down the trees to develop these properties, we think the town should preserve the forested lands as dedicated open space. This would mean that if the town wants to sell an old school property, it would offer for sale only the developed acreage, but retain the undeveloped forested areas as part of the town's climate mitigation strategy. This policy could be applied to all schools, not just those for sale. We also believe the town should evaluate all town properties for sale and reconsider selling those that have significant mature forest cover, as they are more valuable as carbon sinks to the people of Groton, especially those living near existing public or private protected areas. Thank you for considering GCA's forest protection proposal. We must act now to protect Groton's forests. We don't have time to cut down old forests to grow new ones. We would also like to mention that we heard the results of the visioning process and the strong interest in increasing the number of Groton's athletic fields. We recently sent you an article on Stamford, Connecticut's experience with synthetic turf. We hope you have read that article and will seriously consider supporting natural turf fields for both human health, financial, and environmental reasons. Our very best regards, Eugenia Villagra and Liz Racebeck, co-chairs, Groton Conservation Advocates. And thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Okay, next on my list I have Mary Ellen Furlong.
Thank you. I'm speaking tonight about the proposed changes in the rules that's on your agenda. My name is Mary Ellen Furlong, and I live at 57 Fishtown Lane, Noank, Mystic, and Groton. The rules changes proposed by the three-member committee of the Town Council would, if approved, have the effect of pressuring the council into rushing uninformed decisions and reducing the councilors' understanding of what their voters want. The councilors are not being given enough time to think and ask questions about complex projects such as the oral school development, data centers, the environmental issues around data centers, as well as other complicated issues facing the town, such as the STRs and cannabis rules. Other agencies, boards, and commissions, when dealing with complex issues, have public hearings, use expert opinion, and have many discussions with developers and the public. Presentations are more like dog and pony shows, and they don't allow questions. They simply don't qualify as public discussions. Again, counselors need time to ask questions, time to consider proposals and counter proposals, time to consider effects of these proposals on the town and its citizens. In public, not executive sessions. 2 rounds of debate, a total of 10 minutes for each counselor, might be sufficient for very minor issues, but not the issues currently facing the town. The most glaring proposed change would be to eliminate the opportunity to counselors to ask for any clarification on their comments when needed. The whole category of counselor responses to citizens' questions and suggestions would be eliminated from the town council's agenda. Why do you want to limit and reduce counselors' information and understanding? Another large problem. The new rules would keep referrals by counselors literally secret, known initially only to the counselor who proposed them and to the town manager, an unelected official who should be following the town's council's direction, not vice versa. This would limit any public discussion of a referral until it had 2 other counselors backing and was placed on the agenda somewhere in time. Thank you. I know that you have all put in a lot of effort.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Gary Santinello.
To keep within the time limit. Good evening, councilors. My name's Gary Santinello, and I live at what's now called the Mystic River Apartments at the corner of 184 and Colonel Ledyard Highway. Ironically, it's the first assignment for my public speaking class at Three Rivers Community College. I had the students do a 1-minute presentation before an imaginary town council. So it's kind of ironic that I'm up here now. I may use a tape to have them grade me. I know the town's trying to address a lot of the issues associated with short-term rentals and Airbnbs, noise, length of stay, all that, and I think this is a different dimension to that. In mid-August, about the 10-12 residents whose units faced 184 received a letter from the owners, an LLC called 888 Holdings, or Malerba Care, K-A-E-R, that has a business address on Route 32 in Montville, telling us we all had to be out by October 1st because they wanted to remodel those units, even though a few of them had been remodeled within the past year. What they wanted to do was convert them to Airbnb units, figuring they could make more, on those short-term rentals than, dealing with, renters. In effect, we were being kicked out despite many people having leases. 6 weeks in this market is not a lot of time for many people to find housing, especially residents that were elderly, worked in the area, had lived there for a long time before these owners bought the property in February of 2021, I believe. They offered to move some of us into a couple open units, but those were unfinished and higher in rent for basically a comparable space. My concern is really the protection for residents anywhere who come into this situation where a landlord can say, we want you to go because we want to convert these into short-term rentals, and are in effect victims, of these conversions. The letter said we all had to be out by October 1st because they wanted to start immediately on converting all the units. The ones that had been recently remodeled, all they had to do was upgrade furnishings. And those are the only units that anything has been done with. So as of today, only three or four units have been converted. A dumpster has sat out front for the past month, but no additional work has been done. So all those people that were kicked out didn't have to do so. You know, I believe they were all moved out because the owners didn't want the B&B renters having to deal with the actual residents in adjacent or nearby units, or interact or see the rest of the residents. And it's kind of clear by all the attention that has gone into the short-term rental units, while the concerns of the regular renters are being ignored.
1 minute remains.
Thank you. In my case, I moved into a unit that wasn't merely unfurnished, but far from clean. The stove was dirty, barely functional. I've asked twice in the last 2+ weeks, one of the landlords, Marianne Malerba, to address these issues. And both times she literally turned her back on me and walked away. So my only recourse is to withhold rent, which I've informed them of in a letter. I don't have any answers or proposed solutions. I'm just bringing this up in the interest of people who might find themselves in this situation, and the interest of the town, who I know has their hands full with this issue. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Kelly Polson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Town Council members. Kelly Polson, 112 Laurelwood Road. This is my 10th month respectfully requesting a residential light trespass ordinance, 10 months, for requiring lights to be shielded and lights to be aimed down on property. A residential light trespass ordinance preventing light trespassing on or through adjacent properties. There are strict ordinances currently in place governing light trespass and light pollution for Connecticut state, town, and city lights. Other towns in Connecticut currently have residential light trespass ordinance. For example, town of Eastford, Connecticut. Outdoor lights shall be the minimum necessary in both number of luminaries and intensity of light to achieve the intended purpose of the light, and shall meet the following standards as relevant. All exterior lights and sign luminaries shall be designed, located, installed, and directed in such a manner to prevent glare, light trespass, or light pollution, to be shielded to the extent possible to confine the light within the target area. In all areas adjacent to residential property, no external mounted lights, direct light source directed towards the property line shall be visible at the property line at ground level or above. 140 to 150 Groton registered voters signed a petition also asking for this residential light trespass ordinance. I have had light trespassing across my property into my home every single night, all night long, for about 2 years from my neighbors' houses and over 5 years counting the people that lived there before them. Would you want this trespassing into your home every single night? Would you want this happening to your kids, your parents, your friends? Would you want this across the street from you every single night, all night long? They are purposely light trespassing across my property into my home, and they are escalating. The very large LED flag made up of multiple strands of LED lights was moved from the diagonal neighbor's house to the 113's house directly across from me. My across the street neighbor now has 4 lights on all night, every night. The very large LED flag made up of multiple strands of LED lights. The 2 lights over the doors with extensive lumens for the function of lighting the doorknobs to unlock them. The unshielded light pole that has been trespassing into my home for 5 years. On top of the 4 lights on all night, every single night, 113 has a double-headed, excessively bright LED light over the garage which has both heads aimed directly at my house rather than down to their property. This is set at a very long motion sensor interval and is sent off multiple times a night, every night, and very late in the night and early in the morning. Respectfully request that clarifying questions be asked to the actual citizen presenting. For the last 2 council meetings, clarifying questions were asked about what I'm presenting to the town manager, not me. Both times, completely wrong information was answered, and in the clarifying question area of the regular meeting agenda, it states, "No opinion to be given." Not only was wrong information given to the clarifying questions, the town manager provided his opinion that the lights trespassing into my home are no problem. The town manager doesn't live in my home and has not had my neighbor's lights trespassing into his home every single night, all night long. Respectfully request residential light trespass ordinance stating light poles need to be shielded to prevent light trespass, stating lights should be aimed down to the property to prevent light trespassing on adjacent properties, stating floodlights are not allowed. Lights shall be minimum necessary in order to, in both luminaries and numbers, to achieve the intended purpose of lighting their doorknob to unlock it to go into their home.
1 minute remains.
Thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Gary Wells.
Thank you. I'm Gary Wells. I live at 5 Route 27 in Old Mystic. And I understand the council, I was informed the council is considering some rule changes that would limit the ability of councilors to speak at the meetings. I'm an elected official, I'm an elected representative in the RTM, and as elected officials, we all have the opportunity, we all have a vote and a voice at meetings, and the residents of the town need to hear those voices to make some judgment as to whether they support us or don't support us, or whether we're for them or how we're for them. I recall it wasn't that long ago that the Republicans held an 8-to-1 majority on the council, and I attended a meeting because I was curious about, I was on the Public Works Committee and I wanted to see how they handle the items that were coming before the Public Works Committee on the RTM. And they traipsed out, and they apparently had discussed it entirely in the caucus. And the mayor said, does anyone have anything to say on this? And maybe somebody had some comment they wanted to make, but it had already been decided, and are we ready to vote? And boom, next item, are we ready to vote? Boom, and straight through. We have no idea who, what, if there was any contentious issues, it had already been decided. So I'm just reminded of a time Senator Kennedy came to speak to the trade unionists at EB. And the New London Day complained that he ignored the press and focused his attention on the trade unionists there. And he told them, as long as I have a vote and a voice, that vote and voice is for you. And we need to hear that from the councilors, members of the RTM, that our voices and votes are for the people of Groton. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have John Goodrich.
He's in another meeting, and so he's going to swing back.
Okay, I don't see him in the room right now. Next on my list, I have Natalie Billing.
Good evening, Mayor Melendez, members of the council. I'm Natalie Billing, 15 Ashby Street, Mystic. And I'm here to commend the cool heads that prevail on this council. I thank you for your thoughtful, rational, restrained approach to issues. I appreciate those of you who are doing the town's business in a way that avoids drama at meetings, and that you maintain the necessary objectivity on issues. That's what I appreciate from many of you, and I think there's a large silent majority in the community who appreciate that. So thank you. I also want to speak about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund you discussed at your last meeting. I think there might be some misunderstanding about it. One counselor said it's not for developers or commercial enterprises. I don't believe that's correct. Assisting a developer who's willing to build or renovate affordable housing in the town is very much the purpose of an Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It's exactly what you want to do if you want to promote more affordable housing in the town. That's what trust funds are for. While some Affordable Housing Trust Fund dollars might support emergency housing, that's usually done by the town contributing to a nonprofit, for instance, in the community that provides emergency housing, not by the town itself getting into the business of directly providing housing or paying for people's rents. That I would caution you. That's not a precedent I would like to see you set. The Claude Chester reuse is another issue you discussed at your last meeting, and I was pleased with a couple of things. Just wanted to let you know. Participants were asked how much in additional taxes they're willing to pay. Thank you. Believe it or not, many times in the past when we did those kind of surveys or had community input, people were not asked, are you actually willing to pay more to have this? That's critically important, I believe. I'm still concerned that the question might not have been framed exactly correctly, because I think people need to be asked, how much are you willing to pay in addition to the tax increase that there will be anyway? There typically are tax increases most years, and we're headed into a time of inflation. I think you're going to see your town budget and your school budget go up significantly more this year than what we've seen in the past 3, 4, 5 years. And I think you need to be cognizant of that. As you all know, the public may not always remember it, but you know, Groton has many unmet capital needs. We have school buildings that still haven't been addressed. We renovated some, built some new ones, but there's others out there that haven't been done yet. There's lots of roads in need of road work, and we're building more sidewalks, which are incredibly expensive to build and maintain, something I was never very aware of until I sat where you're sitting and had to look at the numbers. So when I hear talk of a community pool, for instance, I know many people would like one. I would too. I have the pleasure of taking my grandson to a splash pad in West Hartford. It's fabulous. Would I love a splash pad in Groton? Yes. However, I don't think most taxpayers in Groton would like to pay the same kind of taxes that people in West Hartford are paying for those amenities.
1 minute remains.
Thank you. So my message is, please prioritize. Please think about the tax impact. Please don't commit us to something that down the road we're not going to be able to afford. And beware of the notion of a master plan. Over the years, I've seen many master plans. Once they're developed, what tends to happen is they get spoken about in the future like, well, this was approved. The community wanted it. And it's very hard for councils then to say, well, sorry, that was then, this is now. So just be careful. I'd be more supportive of growing these amenities if we had more economic development happening in town, but I don't see a lot of economic development happening. So I'm here to ask for fiscal restraint and caution as you proceed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Next on my list, I have Margie Gookins.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Margie Gookins, 26 Daniel Brown Drive, Mystic. In full transparency, I'm a commissioner on the Community Development Advisory Committee, but most importantly, I'm Councilor Franco's mother. I'm here tonight as a taxpayer and a citizen of Groton. I'm not here for political reasons. I'm here because the problems today are now personal. There are two councilors that consistently break their oath of office. This is unacceptable. Groton Town Council Rule 2A states, all meetings shall comply with FOIA. They both continually break the FOIA rules. Each town council meeting is contentious. It is now a weekly embarrassment. I'm embarrassed for you. There's no room for power plays, screaming, bullying, intimidating, or trying to get your own way. My God, one of them even called the mayor Buddy. As for the incident, I'm appalled that any counselor would ever attack another counselor. This is personal to me. My daughter was attacked. There was never an apology that I know of. My question to Councilor Baumgartner, or to any other male, how would you feel if that was your mother, your girlfriend, or your daughter, that some man had verbally attacked, upsetting her to the point of needing to document the incident for her own safety? How would you feel? Councilor Franco point of ordered you for the exact same reason that Councilor Parker point of ordered you. A mere 1 minute and 46 seconds previously. There's no excuse for Councilor Bordelon to continually break the rules, except for your need to be right above all else. Shame on both of you. Shame on you that you're using bad situations to further your personal goals. What, if anything, have either of you done but get people to applaud your bad behavior because they have no idea how government works, or that it takes more than screaming to solve these horrendous situations? Threats to your fellow councilor is against your rules of decorum. Mayor Melendez, I'm asking that Councilor Baumgartner and Councilor Bordelon resign immediately. If they don't, I strongly suggest that you finally do something about their behavior. I suggest you take their committee seats away until they understand their behavior is not acceptable in the council chamber. You do have the authority to remove them from their committees. I'm also asking that in all transparency, you read the complaint that was lodged against Councilor Bordelon. She stated in the last town council meeting that there was a complaint regarding her. Please let us know what the nature of that complaint was. Transparency matters. Thank you for your time, Mayor Melendez. Please do not allow this unacceptable behavior to continue. Do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Genevieve Cerf.
My name is Genevieve Cerf. I live at 6 Pearl Street in Mystic. I'm really distressed at having to follow the previous speaker's comments. In fact, I'm shaking like a leaf because I'm so upset on behalf of my good friends, Andre Baumgartner and Portia Bordelon, who are being set up like nobody I've ever seen set up, even at the federal level, for, condemnation, attacks of all sort. And, I don't want to make things worse here. But this is politics, folks. And in politics, you do discuss things. You do get passionate about what your issue is, what your care is. You get passionate and you raise your voice, and sometimes you raise your voice more than you'd like to, but it's politics. In that particular meeting where Councilor Franco felt attacked by Andre was a meeting that was videotaped, for God's sake. Everyone saw it. And to me, I've seen Councilor Franco walk out of I don't know how many meetings when she's not happy with what's going on, she walks out. So, Councilor Baumgartner followed her because he was fighting the data center thing, which was a really big issue. And it's an issue which he ended up winning, but not easily, because Councilor Franco really wanted these data centers. I mean, that's what it was about. It wasn't about him trying to intimidate her. It was about him trying to get the data centers to not be developed in that particular place. And hundreds of people had testified that night to the fact that they were dangerous, that they were noisy, that they would be unhealthy for the children. There were all kinds of things that had happened. It was a really emotional evening. I was on tenterhooks the entire time myself, not knowing whether we would actually defeat these data centers. So, when passions rise up like that in politics, only the most naive people, can possibly think that this is personal, that this is a personal attack. Not in the town of Groton. I have never seen that happen in my 22 years in the town of Groton. And God knows we've had debates, we've had fights, because most of the times we had half Republican, Democrat councils. People raise their voices, probably me first. But I never, as I said before, I never hated the other councilors. I never felt that they were attacking me personally. I never took any of it personally, and I was pretty green when I started. And here you all are taking it so personally. It's just unbelievable to me. As they say, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. This is politics. We, the voters, expect you to debate things. We, the voters, expect you not to point of order each other out of existence because you don't want something debated that you're on one side of and they're on the other side of. So you're going to slaughter them, with points of order. The rules are not supposed to be a blunt force tool. Robert's rules were written so that people could get along better and have better discussions and more friendly debates and all of that. And you guys have just turned into absolutely the opposite. You're clobbering each other with rules, including these rules here. Now, I have kind of a solution.
1 minute remains.
1 minute, okay. Back to referrals, which I was trying to talk to the last time. I only had 1 minute left. When I talked to Tom Hennick about, who is, along with David Collins, received this very prestigious award from the state of Connecticut for encouraging truth, freedom, and all those great things in our community. Tom Hennick said, well, it's not against the Freedom of Information Act for you guys to be doing all of this by email. He said, but in order to get the information, you as a citizen would have to do a Freedom of Information request because you'll never know about the referrals that were made and turned down. And as I said, this is a big problem to me. If the minority in any situation, if a minority group, imagine if this was in the Congress, makes a referral about something, that is always a public thing. That should be known by the public, and they should not have to do a Freedom of Information request to find out what a minority referral was.
Thank you. Time's
Okay, wait.
expired.
My suggestion
I'm
is,
sorry.
Mayor Melendez,
I'm
is
sorry.
to restore the
time has
subcommittees
expired.
that the RTM has. If you had subcommittees, you all could get together in a subcommittee, you could have
If you have
nice
additional
discussions.
comments, you can submit them to the
You could talk
clerk.
for longer, you could have witnesses come in, it would build trust.
Thank you. Your time
And
has
you,
expired.
and that way the referrals wouldn't take too much of your time.
you.
Restore the subcommittees and send all the referrals to the subcommittees,
Thank you.
please.
Thank you.
Enough secrecy.
All right, I've reached the end of my list. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak? They can approach the podium at this time.
My name is Jim Furlong. I live at 57 Fishtown Lane in Mystic. I'd just like to make two brief points. I spend a lot of time here, and I see Kelly Paulson coming before this board time after time, complaining about what at least seems to me like something quite nasty, which is lights, perpetual lights being shined on her. Now, I'd like to know at some point what has been investigated here. And I'd also like to know why a town, if what she is saying is correct, why a town needs a law to solve this problem. We've got a lot of intelligent people here, and I think talks by the police and so on could take care of this. I just sit here and I feel that the whole town is kind of powerless to deal with a bunch of guys that ought to be dealt with in a gentlemanly fashion. The second point I'd like to make is that the second point that I'm embarrassed about is that this police business having to do with politics here somehow rose to the level of needing a report. I was absolutely flabbergasted about that, and it embarrassed me because it says that we're too, I don't know, I hope we're not snowflakes. It's important to be able to deal, it's tough, I know, but sometimes people get excited about things. In no way is the man who's at the center of this, have I ever seen him anything but a gentleman. I've seen him defend his points of view, but he's always been a gentleman about it as far as I know. And to take him to the police and later call him some sort of bully and imply that there was some sort of physical problem, that just makes me feel that we got a long way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak at this time? Just need your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Groton Town Councilors. My name is Jean-Claude Amboise, 169 Shenecosset Parkway. Transparency and accountability have been a consistent war cry by several councilors during this current chaotic term. I come before you tonight to address some items that are lacking full transparency and accountability in our community that residents should be aware of. I support the decision, first off, made by both the city and town of holding Related Affordable in default. The residents in Branford Manor should not be living in those types of conditions, and they're deplorable. It is my hope that the property management company solves the major issues in the housing complex with the support of city, town, and federal advocacy. The first item for clarification is this one. Since late May, early June, Councilors Bordelon and Baumgartner have communicated that they are an integral part in supporting a group of Branford Manor residents in trying to form a tenants union. To my knowledge, it is not, and I would like to ask what progress has been made to get this group properly assembled. These residents are looking for you to do your part and follow through on your commitments. Secondly, I would like to ask why there has been no disclosure statement made of the close connection that Councilor Bordelon has with the lawyer for some of the residents of Branford Manor. After a brief search of the Noank Community Services webpage, it identifies both the lawyer Amity Oscott and Councilor Bordelon as board members. Considering there could be possible legal actions brought against the town and the city, an elected official has the obligation to disclose these close connections. Also, who knows what information may have been given by the councilor to assist on this case? Blurred lines are present, and we all deserve clarification. I have also discovered that a local state legislator works for the same law firm as the Branford Residents Council as well. I do not know if this information has been discussed or disclosed to Groton residents or the city or town council. Attached to my remarks are links to both websites showing and addressing that these connections are in fact there. It is my hope that this council asks tough questions about this directly to who it involves. Please give us the transparency we all deserve. As for accountability, I wrote just recently on 10/28 to Councilor Bordelon thanking her for finally unblocking me on Facebook. This began on 10/1 and it stopped on 10/18. I have not gotten a response. It is stated by her at a previous meeting that she in fact blocked City Mayor Keith Hedrick and responded, "I wonder why." Well, I would like to wonder why. ACLU deliberations concluded that this is a violation of my First Amendment rights. Over the past 2+ years, I have spoken at several public comments, as you all well know, and written several email communications to Councilor Bordelon, only to be ignored at every turn. Why do I, as a resident, not get that same equity access as others in our community? You are on record claiming that you represent folks without a voice. Mine is clearly discounted by you without explanation. Please practice what you preach and respond to my questions and concerns. And I'll piggyback off of Ms. Furlong said, if the rules need to change to eliminate the response to citizens' petitions, this is a perfect example of it. Some folks here only selectively shout out when they feel like it's necessary. Lastly, I'm asking you, Mr. Mayor Melendez, to consider strong action on rooting out the chronic bullying and harassment on this council. After the recent discovery of Councilor Rachel Franco filing a police report on Councilor Baumgartner for allegedly following her during a council recess after repeated verbal attempts asking him to leave her alone, he has avoided on several occasions, including a horribly written day opinion piece to clarify the record. I can only hope that tonight, during citizens' response to citizens' petitions, that voters can hear your voice. Transparency is important. I, for one, believe her account, and no one should be treated like what Ms. Franco reports. There are also countless incidents on record of unprofessional conduct by councilors. One resident on the outside can only imagine how many more examples of hostile, antagonistic behavior is going on. We have chosen you to lead this organization. You should establish a zero-tolerance harassment and bullying policy. It doesn't require a rule change. It just encourages you to follow the existing rules of the town council. Then they will be able to deliberate and seek punitive action by sending it to the Rules and Procedures Committee on any member violating the basic rules of professionalism. Our town deserves better than what we are seeing. Please do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time? Please approach the podium. I need your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Ian Thomas, 24 Jefferson Drive. I am spouse of Councilor Bordelon, RTM representative, districts D3, soon to be D2, Groton Democratic Town Committee and City Committee member. I'm a former Board of Ed candidate and a possible City Council candidate. I'm also a Gemini, the middle child of 5, and my favorite color is hunter green. I have some questions for the town council, town manager, and town clerk. Regarding the police report filed by Councilor Franco in March of 2022, if the intent of this filing was not to report a possible crime or request an investigation into one, but to serve as a substitute for a human resources complaint about an incident where harassment or abuse is alleged to have occurred, as was asserted by Councilor Franco in a self-authored public statement on both the Day Online and her political Facebook page, then why has the HR complaint process not been mimicked or paralleled to its fullest extent? Was the town manager or mayor made aware of this complaint? If so, were either asked for advice or insight into how to best remedy the concerns brought forth by the report? Why was Councilor Baumgartner not notified of the complaint when it was submitted? If the intent was to seek a remedy to prevent further possible harassment or possible abuse, then why wasn't the respondent notified by the complainant or designated intercessor? Question number 2. Since Councilors Melendez and Parker are named as corroborating witnesses in the police report, did they know about this report being filed? If so, when did they know? If so, why did neither of them choose to file a supplemental report? The record will show that the police were receptive to supplemental reports as a third witness, Groton City Clerk Eddie Jacome, chose to file his own statement and managed to do so despite having to call in a few times. If Melendez and Parker did know about the report, then as chair of the council, why did the mayor not notify Baumgartner or attempt to act as intercessor in some fashion? If they did know about the report, why did they not use this knowledge as part of their public reasoning in favor of bringing in a mediator? Or if Melendez and Parker did not know about the report, why did Franco choose not to tell them about it? Number 3, did the town manager know about the report over the balance of the months spanning from March, April, and May? If so, when did he know? If so, why did he not file a supplemental report? If so, why was there no notice given to Baumgartner or the council at large letting them know that the police were taking supplemental reports on the incident? If so, why not include at least some mention of it, minus names, in the May 3rd agenda package under the item regarding a proposed mediator? Or if the town manager did not know, why did Franco choose not to tell him? Number 4, if Franco felt so threatened by Baumgartner after the first recess of the March 1st meeting, why did she choose to sit next to him during the April 5th meeting? Why did she choose to follow him out into the hall during a recess of that meeting? During committee reports section of that same meeting, when accusing him of attempting to hold an illegal meeting, why did she speak to him in such an antagonistic manner while sitting directly next to him? Number 5, if Franco was concerned enough to file a report as a parallel to the HR process, then why not make this existence of that report part of the rationale presented in the late April, early May time period to argue in favor of bringing in a mediator? The report could have had the name substituted as complainant and respondent or something like that, so privacy issues could have been addressed. Why was this issue not brought forth then when it had imminent relevance to a pending agenda item? Closing notes, rules. The only changes I could possibly see as useful and acceptable would be the removal of the consent calendar altogether, such that any items coming out of the committees should be reported on by the chair of that committee under committee reports, and if there's a recommended action associated with that report, then the chair would so move it onto the floor for a possible second discussion and amendments, as per any other scheduled agenda item, which is how the RTM does it, and I recommend this body do the same, and the consent calendar. Lastly, just wanted to call people's attention to the recurring pattern over the past couple of years. There has been a growing tension and widening divide between the grassroots groups of community activists along with their elected representatives on one side of many contentious issues versus the status quo-minded folks along with the establishment-endorsed elected representatives. So far, with every advance or victory achieved by the grassroots collective community activist efforts, there has been a corresponding reaction of retribution, restrictive rule revisions or interpretations, pestering with parliamentary parlor tricks, frivolous points of order, refusing points of information, and now what seems to be the attempted character assassinations of Councilors Baumgartner and Bordelon through what seems to be the willful weaponizing of our public agencies' complaint
Your
processes.
time has expired. Thank you. If you have additional comments, you can submit them to the clerk. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time? Please approach the podium. Manager Burt, is there anyone online?
There is not.
There's not? Okay.
I have a quick question, clarifying question.
What's your
So
question?
there were some comments that were made that wanted questions, but unfortunately, according to our new rules,
No.
we cannot respond,
Count-
correct? Is that correct?
That's not correct. That's not correct.
We only can ask clarifying questions, right, under response to citizens' petitions?
Just one second. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak at this time? Okay.
The reason I ask is because if we can't speak, then
Can I-
are we allowed to speak under public comment?
Council Bordelon? I have the floor right now. Thank you. With that, I'll close receipt of citizens' petitions, comments, and concerns, and on to responses to citizens' petitions, comments, and concerns. In accordance with Freedom of Information Act rules, responses to citizens' petitions will be limited to asking clarifying questions with no further elaboration or opinion to be given.
That was I just had a clarifying question, though. If we're not allowed to respond to their questions under citizens' petitions or the new rules, are we allowed
No,
to
no.
speak under public
Okay,
comment?
so the new rules have not been passed. We're under the old rules.
Right, I'm just saying these rules were changed. Originally, we could respond to questions from citizens. So my question is, if we can't respond, like J.C. Amboise had questions, and so they don't feel like they're being ignored, we're not allowed to, under these rules, correct?
Okay, so you can respond by asking clarifying questions in the sense that there cannot be discussion on any item that's not on our agenda.
Okay, and then my next question is then can counselors speak under public comment? Per our rules?
I don't.
Because that's where we have a right to, because there's nowhere else on the agenda that we're able to speak.
Okay, so I do not have the answer for that right now. I
Can I
can
ask
get
the
you an
town
answer
manager?
for that.
Town manager, do you have an answer to that?
I do not.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I will find that out for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Council Franco?
I would just like to make a comment regarding the response to citizens' comments. Mr. Burt, has the law changed on FOIA on how a council can respond to citizens' comments in the past maybe 2 years?
No, it's been the same. That basically, I think with the response, clarifying questions is it. And generally start doing more than yes or no's, even then you start getting in trouble. So like if I was giving a report, any questions should be very, very simple questions, not giving opinions or anything else. You
And
really
that-
get in trouble if you start giving opinions on any of the items that aren't on the agenda.
And this is a law, an actual law that has not changed, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Council Westervelt?
I've got two clarifying questions. One is for the clerk. Did Mr. Gary Santinello leave contact information?
Yes, he did. He left cards to pass out to the town council.
Okay, I'll get one later then.
Yep.
Also, for Ms. Polson, she indicated that there were 2 erroneous comments that were made by the town manager. Can you please speak to those?
Well, you can send them to me. Never send the comments to me.
Okay, but the clarifying question is, if you could send that to the town clerk, I'd appreciate it, but can you tell us what those 2 incidents were?
It was the clarifying questions of
Oh.
the last 2 months.
I'm sorry. The response should be sent to the town clerk so it could be placed on the
Oh.
record.
So she can't respond to me directly?
Right.
Okay. But it's a clarifying question.
Right, okay. So it's my understanding, citizens get 5 minutes, one time a month. If we ask questions, someone can come up there and speak again. And it's just not equitable.
It's just additional information. That was just additional information. It's not a clarifying. In other words, if someone says, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in here.
Can you use the microphone?
You're fine.
Well, may I speak, Mayor?
Sure, sure.
My understanding from FOI rule, which you've discussed, it's the idea of bringing in a subject that is not on your agenda to discuss. Now, citizens petitions traditionally there's never been a response. This was something relatively new. We've talked about that before. But it was only for clarifying questions, not about not about new information. It would be someone said something and you didn't hear it quite right.
Okay,
So, okay.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
I just have a quick question.
what's your question?
I'm just curious how the city is allowed to do it then, if it's.
I can't speak to the city meetings.
They must fall under the same purview, I'm just.
I can't speak to the city
Yeah,
meetings.
that'd be interesting to find out, thank you.
Okay, so that'll close response to citizens' petitions, comments, and concern.
I'd like to take a break, please.
All right, we'll take a 10-minute break, be back at 7:57. We are back from recess at 7:59. On to consent calendar. All matters listed under consent calendar on the agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion on these items will take place unless cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to adopt. I make a motion to move the consent calendar items consisting of October 4, 2022 minutes and October 11, 2022 special meeting minutes, various appointments, reappointments from September and October, special trust fund contributions from October, and tax refund. So moved.
Second, Bordelon?
Moved by Melendez, seconded by Bordelon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. On to communication and reports. Councilor Baumgarten.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Received no shortage of constituent correspondences and attended several events throughout the community. Thank you.
Councilor Parker.
I did attend a couple of events, the Bumpers and Books, which was a nice event. Thank you for all that participated. The chili cook-off at Drive 55 was a fun event. Tasted all the chilies as well as most of the snacks. It was a well-put-on event. And I attended the TVCCA meeting and want to remind everyone that housing assistance is available. They're not only doing energy assistance, they also help with water bills and everything if you need to apply online. I believe the town manager has shared the TVCCA link for everyone. They did have an increase. As of October 10th, they had 3,310, but when I attended my meeting, it went up to 4,700 in a matter of weeks. So it was actually 700 more than last year. So a lot of people are using the assistance and continue to apply. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Franco.
Thank you. I had numerous emails and conversations with residents in our community this past week. And I don't know exactly how the proclamation came about, but I would like to thank the council for putting the proclamation out for the lung cancer. And my father had passed away last year from lung cancer as a result from exposure to Agent Orange during his time in Vietnam. And I hope our community will take heed and educate yourself and get cancer screenings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also received numerous communications and emails, and earlier tonight, I attended the Downtown Mystic Resiliency and Sustainability Plan First Public Workshop. This is the first of 3 workshops that will be held over the next series of months as the town of Groton is developing a plan on the resiliency of downtown Mystic, and will plan on identifying community action needed to prepare for coastal flooding, sea level rise, erosion, and rising temperatures. They had a great turnout. There were probably about 40 people there, and I left just when they were starting the workshops. So it seemed like a pretty good event, and I think people need to be ready to participate in it over the next few months and get some good information and help make some decisions. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McBride.
Thank you. Last Wednesday, we held the Property Reuse Committee meeting. The committee consisted of Councilor Bordelon, Councilor Westervelt, myself. At that committee meeting, we made motions to extend the committee from the existing 3 to add 5 more individuals to the committee, consisting of a representative from the Groton Housing Authority, Planning and Zoning, Inland Wetlands, EDC, and the Conservation Commission. We also are going to solicit resident input on that committee as well. The committee will then become a committee of 11. We also finalized our draft agreement at that point, and now we're going to take steps further to refine that document with the expertise from those areas as well as other residents. Our next meeting is going to be held tomorrow, and we'll start to dive into that more, and hopefully be able to provide something to the council soon that the council can review, make changes, and hopefully approve, so we can move forward with the plans for some of the school properties and others. I also attended the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities annual meeting, or annual meeting today at Mohegan Sun, and attended various seminars relating to, matters of municipal functions. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Bordelon.
Thank you. I too received numerous emails, an FOI request that was sent out by the town manager. Letters, a couple letters regarding people that were speaking regarding the rules. I too attended the Property Use Committee. I encourage anybody to come out that has any input. There's always public comment available, so it's nice to hear from the folks that do show up. And let's see, I did not attend as a counselor, but I did attend as a parent, which is a Groton event. I attended the graduation on the subbase this Friday from FT school. So after 8 months of boot camp and submarine school training and then fire control technician training, it was really cool to attend. I've been to many ceremonies on the base, but not one from directly trained sub-school folks that are coming right out of their career paths. And so it was really awesome. Great speeches were given. They had different speakers there, and it was really insightful to hear and speak to all the different folks who come through Groton initially, because it is the submarine capital, and all the students that were from various parts of the United States. So it was a large showing of people from all over, and to hear their next steps and where they were heading was really inspiring. So I think that is it. Oh, I did have contact with a few Branford Manor residents, one in which I did meet through just contact in the community, and she was in need, I guess I won't say her name, but she has a physical disability that prevents her from sometimes being able to walk well, and she had asked if I could connect her with any resources to help find a walker that has one of the with the seats on it, so that she could take her son trick-or-treating. And I was able to contact one of the nonprofits, a 501c in Niantic, and obtain her a walker to use. So that was really exciting to have that delivered, and she seemed very appreciative. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Counselor Westervelt.
Thank you. I too received lots of different emails, mostly with regards to the Historic District Commission, as well as Branford Manor and the proposed rule changes for the town council. Thank you. Oh, and the Property Reuse Committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Kasiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have received various communications regarding ARPA, TVCCA, Recreation Master Plan, a FOIA complaint, a special congratulations to Thrive 55 for receiving one of CCM's Municipal Excellence Awards, information from Public Works regarding the closed schools, Branford Manor updates, rules and procedures, Historic District Commission FOIA, and a complaint from a Ledgelight Health District employee. I also just wanted to thank the Old Mystic Fire Department for putting on a great Halloween parade, as usual, this past Saturday. My kids had a blast, and I saw that many other fire districts put on events for kids, so thank you to our amazing fire departments. Thank you.
Thank you. Over this last week, I just want to commend our police department. There have been an alarming number of incidents regarding bomb scares. We had one at our school. We had one at a person having a backpack filled with pipe bombs. So I just want to give a public service announcement to everyone to be vigilant. If you see something, say something. The Spanish channel, Univision, actually contacted me for an interview. They did an interview also with our police chief. So it's out there. The interviews are dubbed over in English so that all residents can understand English. I was actually managed to do the interview in Spanish, which was something that I'm very proud of, as I am working towards being fluent. But yes, stay vigilant. If you see something, say something, and that is all I have. Okay. On to Clerk of the Representative Town Meeting.
Yes, the representative town meeting will be meeting November 9th. They do have business. They still have vacancies in District 1 Democrat and District 3 Democrat. Anyone interested in applying for that election, it's an elected position from the residents, of the representatives from that district. If you're interested, contact the town clerk's office. That's it for the RTM.
I have a question.
Counselor Franco?
I have a question regarding the RTM
Sure.
and their rules. Do they have a call the question rule?
Yeah, they use Robert's rules to call the question. And it's a 2/3 majority, supermajority to get it passed.
And is it a certain time period that they're allowed to speak?
So the rule is 10 minutes discussion before the question can be called.
Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk of the council?
The council, I just have to report, well, we did receive communication, I think it was supposed to be read under citizens petition from Mr. Edward Johnson, 87 Main Street, who had comments pertaining to the rule changes, and he said, don't do it, basically. He wants the things to remain the same. And I wanted to report, because you're all waiting for the information, absentee ballot. We've issued 1,501 as of today. So we have a few days left to receive. We can still issue them in person. I'm not mailing any more unless we absolutely have to, and then I'll have to use a speed service, like UPS next day, which I had to do two today, and that was expensive. So if you're still looking for an absentee ballot, anyone who's qualifies, pretty much anyone does qualify, since if you're afraid of catching an illness, you come to the town clerk's office in person. You'll fill out an application, and we'll give you a ballot right there. We do have a privacy voting booth so that you can use, that we disinfect. But just to give you an understanding, the last state election, 2018, we issued 914 absentee ballots, so we're a little bit ahead of that. Okay.
Very good. Counselor Franco?
Did you receive a letter from Mr. Steve Artell that was addressed to I believe it was addressed to possibly the mayor, that was sent in as well, that he wanted, I guess, on the record and read tonight as well, which...
I don't recall anything from that gentleman, but I'll ask town manager's staff.
I believe it was addressed to you because I was CC'd on it.
It was an email then?
Email.
Oh, then I'd have it, and it'll be attached, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Did you want to comment on it? I don't know what the subject was, I don't remember.
No, he had asked for you to read it.
Oh, read it, well, let me see.
And if Mr. Johnson's is going to be put in there, I think you should as well.
Yeah, it's already in there. Let's see if I can get into, well, I'm sorry, I'll look for it in my records here. If I can get into my records here. I can't get in my records here.
Okay.
I can't
Can-
get
you
into-
can't-
I can get into the weird things. nothing
All right, perhaps
valuable.
next month?
Nothing valuable.
Okay, on to town manager.
Good evening. First, I just want to mention that November's 2 Committee of the Whole meetings are not on their usual days. Next week will be the 7th Monday due to election on the 8th. And then due to Thanksgiving, the second cow will be on the 15th. So just so everybody knows that out there. I provided earlier in the week an update on Brantford Manor to the council and RTM. I have posted that information under news items on our website. So if you go there, you can get the latest information on that. Finance director search, we're getting ready to do interviews with the next set of candidates. So hopefully that will work out. Mystic Ed Center, at the last meeting, the council had made a recommendation to continue a mediation for the development agreement with Rustler, and you'll have a a resolution tonight just to wrap that up, but we do have the mediation set up. It is November 16th, so not too far away. And then we were notified last week of approximate opioid payments for year 2. Together, they total around 110,000. As mentioned before, when this came up, the council wanted to discuss how to proceed the next time. So this will be on the agenda next week just for initial discussions, no recommendations going into it. And that is what I have.
Counselor Bordelon?
Yes, I just wanted to check the status of the referral regarding the data centers.
It's in the queue, but we have other things before it. And last I talked to the attorney, there's nothing we can do about it. So I'm going to check back in with them and look out there. The way you can cancel it is if they go into foreclosure or bankruptcy for that particular name of the company, because you can have different subsidiaries. That's the only way to cancel it early. And last we looked, we couldn't find anything to that effect.
Okay, thank you, because when you ask, my understanding or the way that I read it, there was a date on there that they had to be in compliance with for their first round of things they were supposed to do, and I believe that date has gone past, that 1 year.
Well, that's different. That's not the way it works on that. That only goes into effect if they actually receive the land. And until they receive the land, it's strictly I forget what it is, whatever it is, a 5-year contract, and then unless they go into bankruptcy, that's the only quick out.
All right, thank you.
Counselor Franco?
So I have some questions because numerous residents reached out to me about a flyer they received in the mail. And are the data centers gone for good, or is negotiation stopped for the next 12 months?
Certainly town staff has no interaction with anything data center wise. The Planning and Zoning Commission, it's one of their many items. They did put a 1-year moratorium on it. They're still early in the process of looking at what to do with those. So I anticipate that'll be quite a while until they get to that point.
But did this council do anything to get rid of them for good?
Sorry.
I'm talking about the council.
Oh, yeah,
or was that negotiation?
I believe the resolution that you ended up passing said not to entertain it
for 12 months?
Anytime in the future or for a certain amount of time. I know you did something, sorry, I just can't remember off the top of my head.
Also, on this flyer, it says, and I'm going to say, a counselor states he was not bought off. Is there anybody else on this committee or town staff that you've heard of that has been approached to be bought off?
No, not at all.
And if they were, that would be an ethics committee referral, is that correct?
Yeah, besides, if they actually did something, yes. Obviously, they'd report it if such an attempt was made. If there was ever any evidence anybody did anything inappropriate, which again, I'm absolutely sure nothing untoward was done. Well, besides going to ethics commission, if it was a non-union person, they would not be working here long. So.
And if there was another issue that we received an email about that in relation to Ledge Light Health District and a potential counselor that may have been interfering with a regulated inspection and trying to sway the inspection, is this something that should go to the Ethics Commission?
I don't believe so, no. Our ethics ordinance as it's currently written, of course, the council has tasked them with re-looking at the rules, but the existing ordinance is strictly based on financial matters, like financial gain.
And it doesn't take into account our charter and the ability to potentially use your position to sway somebody?
No, that would fall under more of a censure type issue, but no, the ethics ordinance is solely based on financial gain.
Thank you.
For now, yeah.
Council Bordelon?
Just to clarify with the town manager, the letter that I requested, that statement, it's, being stated as if it's factual. The mother that was there and the aunt that where the woman had died, who was a witness when we were speaking to Ledge Light along with another Branford Manor resident. I was speaking very passionately as the mother was very upset, the loss of her daughter, and to find out there was mold conditions in the residence. So this is a one-sided take. It was the Ledge Light. It wasn't me
Point
trying
of
to
order.
persuade.
One second. What's your point of order?
This is going into opinion and not a yes or no question.
Sure.
Right, this section
Sure, I'll
is
make
just
sure
for
it's yes.
questions for the town manager.
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
So my question, John, is should I submit my side with my witnesses because it was Ledge Light Health District, you and the mayor had already left, and it was me and the resident's mother. So this is a one-sided statement. My statement has not been given.
That's entirely up to you.
Okay.
I really wouldn't be involved in anything that happens with that.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to be clear that it's a one-sided statement. It has not been fully, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Assuming there's no department head, superintendent of schools here, we'll go on to committee reports. I have nothing
I
from
have a
committee of the
question
whole.
for you.
Okay.
It was just brought up by Counselor McBride. He said something to the effect that the property reuse committee is expanding to add more members to make it, isn't that an arm of our council and who would appoint?
Okay, so let me remember. This is it's not a standing committee, it's ad hoc, and Manager Burt, you can correct me if I'm wrong on anything. The ad hocs typically have been, the chair of the body has typically been given discretion on the membership. But Manager Burt, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
How are they appointed, the original?
Each one's an individual case. I believe, though, when you formed that one, you gave the authority to basically invite whoever they thought necessary to participate.
But he said
If I remember correctly.
Was I incorrect to say you were asking them to join the committee?
Yes. We initially were going to bring them as part of the committee from the beginning. We decided to do some work ourselves, and then we wanted to move on and expand the committee at this point. So we're adding them to the membership now.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that further. On to personnel and appointments, Chair Baumgartner.
Yes.
Weren't they voted on consent? Sorry, I saw them there.
What? Oh,
Your rules haven't changed yet? And
no,
so
he's
it's
just
still
giving.
under consent?
Yeah, we're not voting. He's just giving a report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, congratulations to Dominic Bassi, who was reappointed to the Parks and Rec Commission, as well as Stephen Jones to the Shellfish Commission, Jay Loudon to the Shellfish Commission. Alternate reappointed Thomas Weeks, and we just voted on this in the consent, but just for the public. Thomas Weeks to the Harbor Commission, Management Commission, reappointing Barbara Nagy to the Library Board, reappointing Marilyn Comrie to the Library Board, reappointing Mark Offinger, who also functions as the Vice Chair, to the Retirement Board, reappointing Carol Pratt to the Retirement Board, reappointing Jeffrey Blevins, who's the Treasurer, to the Jabez Smith House, reappointing Dick Dixon to the Jabez Smith House, reappointing Scott Risotto to the Zoning Board of Appeals, William Menser to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Doug Smith to the Zoning Board of Appeals, both alternates, and the appointment of Dana Cimararo as an alternate to the Community Development Advisory Committee, as well as a reappointment of Marie Shaw, who is the Vice Chair of the Library Board.
Thank you.
Nothing further to report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Questions?
Counselor Kasiri.
I'm sorry, I have some questions regarding some of the topics that the chair of the Personnel and Appointments Committee spoke about at the October 18th meeting. Mr. Mayor, I will ask my questions through you to the chair as Robert's Rules of Order instructs us as members to do so. Mr. Mayor, the chair mentioned the reappointment of Michael Kane, which was not on his agenda but will most likely come to the November agenda. Mr. Chair states, I would hate to have what transpired at our last council meeting where we took up personnel items to happen again. Obviously, with a vacancy of that significance coming upon the horizon, should we advance any alternates, a similar move will be made to fill what would be an expiring term for the regular council. The chair mentions that the personnel and appointments meetings have become well attended. The chair continued, I do want to handle these matters with significant due diligence to ensure that we are treating all of our applicants fairly and with respect, and that truly duly qualified members will not be subject to any petty politics. The chair stated he has a question, changed his tone, and asserted, I'm very uncomfortable taking up any applications for the alternate positions until we reappoint the member whose term will be expiring at the end of the year to that committee to ensure we provide our list of recommendations to the council. Our recommendations will be treated fairly and equitably. Because of procedural rules, our recommendations will be impacted. The town clerk interjected and explained Mr. Kane isn't on the agenda, and it's important to appoint those alternate positions in case there's absences. Councilor McBride expressed his hesitation with waiting on appointing alternates. He asked why we can't appoint alternates and reappoint the member later in the year. Mr. Chair responded, not without perhaps unintended consequences when it comes to a council vote. I just want to warn the council, in the past, when personnel and appointments have made recommendations to the council, not only were they passed unanimously, they were passed on consent without any issue. The town clerk then interrupted and point of ordered the chair to explain that only in recent years of the council has personnel and appointments been under the consent calendar. The chair continued, what had transpired, individual council members have any prerogative, have the ability to do such a thing. We also have the ability to not advance applicants through this committee. My first question to the chair, Mr. Mayor, is who he believes has the authoritative power to appoint individuals to committees.
Councilor Baumgartner, would you like to respond?
Mr. Mayor, before we indulge in a colloquy back and forth, just out of curiosity, typically committee chairs provide reports of committee business, and that was just done. Any clarifying questions, clarifying in nature, can be asked, but certainly I don't believe in my time on the council has the personnel and appointments reports been utilized in a way to ask opinionated questions. So
I believe the question was,
I just want to know who the chair believes has the authoritative power. I'm happy to ask the town clerk.
okay.
Town clerk?
The appointments to all of our boards, committees, and agencies is solely on the hands of the town council.
Thank you.
And I will preface also by saying that the town council takes recommendations from its committees, and typically that's how it goes, as you've already stated.
Great, thank you. My next question is whether or not the chair was questioning the motivations of councilors when he stated phrases such as petty politics when speaking regarding why councilors voted particular ways.
Councilor Baumgartner, would you like to respond?
there's no need to respond to that
Okay,
question.
thank you. My next question is in one sentence. The chair emphasizes the importance of fairness, equitable opportunities for applicants in appointing members, but then the chair explicitly states that the committee has the ability to block applicants from being moved forward. Will the chair clarify whether or not he was actually stating he was blocking the appointments?
I will note we're a committee of 3. Any member of our committee can bring forward motions as far as appointing members of our boards and commissions. And certainly, as you very well know, what is advanced out of our committee ultimately has to be approved by this town council. And it is the sole discretion and prerogative of this town council to give an up or down vote on any applicant that this committee advances.
Great, thank you for that response. Mr. Chair goes on to state, I do think Councilor Westervelt, myself, and Councilor McBride do represent a cross-spectrum of viewpoints here in our town. When we can come to an agreement on qualified candidates for boards and commissions, I would hope that work is respected. My question for the chair, Mr. Mayor, is does Mr. Chair believe that Councilor McBride, Councilor Westervelt, and himself represent the spectrum of viewpoints of Councilor Parker, Councilor Franco, Councilor Bordelon, and myself?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we represent a third of the perspectives of our total body. As I stated earlier, we only represent a minority, though we are tasked by the mayor, myself appointed as chair, and also appointing both Mr. McBride and Councilor McBride and Councilor Westervelt has placed his trust in our ability to move forward candidates in a fair and unvarnished and untarnished manner, moving their applications forward to this body, giving them a fair deliberation, a fair shot, and asking clarifying questions to candidates. We do that every month, and ultimately, it is the mayor's discretion to continue that group. But when we vote, oftentimes we do work in a collaborative fashion. We oftentimes do vote unanimously, in large part because we have a great working relationship.
Great, thank you for that response, because my next question was going to be, does the chair understand that the committee is only 1/3 of the entire council, and therefore can't make the decision for a body of 9, as they are not even a majority? But you've answered, so thank you. Do you understand that procedural rules are what make the full council able to have the equitable vote?
I'm sorry. Counselor, can you repeat the last part?
Do you understand that procedural rules are what make the full council able to have the equitable vote?
Of course.
Okay. Do you feel that the voices of 3 male committee members means more than the will of the full council?
You may respond if you wish. No?
Thank you. Does the chair feel he can continue to lead this committee when he is actively choosing to withhold the nominations and committees of qualified candidates?
I'm not going to call point of order on that, but I would just implore Counselor Kasiri to withhold from questioning any counselor's motives.
I would implore you to do the same. Thank you.
Councilor Franco?
Thank you. I too watched the October 18th meeting, and on numerous occasions, I think there were decorum comments that were very inappropriate by the chair. And it may behoove the mayor to watch the meeting and to consider maybe placing some new people in positions. Thank you.
On to rules. Chair Parker.
We have an agenda item that was brought forth for a vote tonight. Thank you.
Public Safety Chair McBride.
So we're able to cross-examine now, so I guess I will ask my question.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
Flippant remarks that are decorum issues.
It's not intended,
Councilor Bordelon, your comment should be
Sure.
questions to Councilor Parker.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because are we timed during this time or no? No, I just want to make sure I follow the rule, because before, like, we weren't allowed to do this, so. But if we are, then I just want to make sure I'm following correctly. How long do I have?
This is not a
Oh,
time
it's not
section
timed.
typically.
Perfect. Thank you. My question is, as it was stated, it is, people are appointed. We all serve on these extra committees that not just represent it's to break it down, to process the information, to bring back to the council. There's no way we can be at every committee meeting. And with that, in the past, there's always been
I'm
public
sorry,
comment.
what's your question
Sure,
to
I'm
Councilor
getting there.
Parker?
Counselor who?
Councilor Parker.
Is it
Oh.
question from?
Oh, you're
It's for
asking-
the rules chair.
Yeah.
A question for the rules chair.
Correct, and I'm getting there. And my question is, in the past, there's always been an open dialogue allowing public comment. And under this one, as an ex officio member, we have not been allowed to speak. And so, as it was stated, does the chair feel that she represents the 9-member body up here by not allowing us to bring in, since the will is going to be the vote of the council, it would be nice to have the option to have public comment. I know on personal appointments, the committee I serve on, public comment's always open.
Okay.
So my
Councilor
question
Bordelon, what's your
is-
question?
My question is why are we not allowed, as ex officio members that will be voting on it, allowed to comment, and public comment has not been allowed?
As I've been on for several years, we have never had public comment for the Rules Committee. It's always been the counselors. But the concern, as I've stated during both meetings, we had 6 of the 9 counselors at a meeting, which would force us to be a quorum. And it's only 3-member committee that can discuss the items without getting into trouble with freedom of information. Because if we made had discussion and debated the issues, would be, we would be in violation. It's a full council. Anything over 5 is a full council.
Thank you. My other question is, I can respect that that was the last meeting, but the
That
other
was-
meetings before that, there was not?
There were 6. I had recorded that in the minutes, and they're in both. I said there was guests. There was 6.
Right, that hasn't, but the question, I guess, it wasn't at every meeting, but that's fair. There was not 6 counselors at every Rules Committee meeting. And so I just encourage you to open it up for public comment and allow it to have its full transparency, like it was stated, because, again, it's going to come before the council, and it's fair that we have a chance to just bring our suggestions forward as consideration. Thank you.
And again, I asked those to submit comments. Technically, when we have our committee, the whole meetings, we do not have the public speak. The only time the public gets to speak is at the town meeting. I asked the counselors to send me remarks so that we do not get in trouble, and I would bring it forward to all the committee members, which was the 3-person group, to discuss.
Just a quick question, Mayor. Ex officio members have the right to speak at all subcommittees and other meetings, correct?
Yes.
Right, all right, so the option is available, so we're not just public comment, we're ex officio. Thank you.
Right. I believe the issue was,
As long as the chair allows that throughout the meeting.
okay.
Thank you.
On to public safety, Chair McBride.
I'm happy to report there was no meeting, and I have no report.
Yes.
Can I go back 2 spaces here and ask a question about the, with regards to the personnel appointments? There was a comment made about 3 males being able to properly represent, and I'm just not sure why that comment was made. If there was something that we did that was not called for, or something we did that was wrong.
Okay, well, under that section, those questions would be addressed to Chair Baumgartner, and he's not the one who made that comment, so I'm not sure that would be the spot for that. So we'll just move on to new business.
I was just asking because I wanted to know if we did something wrong, and so I guess I can ask offline.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
On to new business. Town Council 33rd Rules and Procedures Revision. Okay. I make a motion to recommend a resolution adopting changes for the rules of the 33rd Town Council, whereas at the October 3rd, 2022 Town Council Rules and Procedures Committee meeting, the committee recommended approval of changes to the Town Council of the 33rd Town Council rules adopted on March 1st, 2022, and resolved that the Town Council Rules and Procedures Committee recommended certain changes to the rules at their October 3rd, 2022 special meeting. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council adopts the following changes to the rules of procedure of the 33rd Town Council attached. Said rules to be effective immediately. Add the following language under as both Rule 8D6 and Rule 10J. A motion may be made and seconded after 2 rounds of speaking to call the question and end debate by a simple majority. 2, eliminate responses to citizens' petitions from the Town Council agenda by removing the item Rule 7A6. 3, remove personal appointments from the consent calendar from Rule 7A7B and from 7G2. At Section H, under Rule 5, the mayor can set time limits on presentations or updates to preserve the order of the meeting. 5, replace existing verbiage under Rule 9. F, any counselor may submit a referral which shall be committed in writing via email or in person to the town manager, upon which time the exact language shall be forwarded to the whole council, seeking support of 2 additional counselors before the item shall be added to the agenda. Upon receipt of the support of the 2 additional counselors, the mayor shall assign the referral to the appropriate committee. So moved.
Second, Jones?
Okay, moved by Melendez, seconded by Jones. I'd like to comment briefly on each one of these. Second. Okay, so rule number 1, add the following language. Basically, after 2 rounds of speaking, you can call the question with a simple majority. The genesis of this rule was essentially that we have this rule where you have 2 rounds of speaking, if someone makes an amendment, we have 2 more rounds of speaking, and for all additional amendments, we have 2 rounds of speaking. So this has, this came about where sometimes an amendment gets voted down, and then another amendment's put on, and then there's 2 more rounds of speaking. So it comes to the point where sometimes there's a majority of counselors who are ready to vote, they know how they're going to vote, and it becomes all too easy if you are not in favor of it passing, putting another motion on, and restarting the debate. So I just want to make it very clear that moving the question by a simple majority under this rule is very specific. It cannot happen before the first 2 rounds of speaking. It can't happen. So at the very least, every counselor will get 2 rounds of speaking. So that's what I have to say on the first one. Second one, eliminate responses to petitions from town council agenda. Very simply, we have had issues with discussion propping up during this section, and it's not to eliminate the response of a counselor to a citizen, which actually can't happen the way it sounds like it can. I'm all in favor of that, and for that, I would suggest all residents that you can email the town council, also call us, that's all public information, and you can have a discussion with the counselor on everything without restrictions from FOIA. Remove personal appointments from the consent calendar. Very quickly, that we had an issue where a nominee was removed from the consent calendar. It was very difficult to parse what should have happened, and I did my best in the time with the knowledge that I had. Still not sure what the real process is when that happens, so it is an action item by a standing committee, and every other action item by standing committees goes straight to the regular agenda, not the council. And finally, time limits on presentations. I'll take my second time. Any other counselors? Councilor Franco?
I recall when you brought this forward, your recommendations for changes and your reasoning, as I can remember in my own mind, is because we were being told that we had so many problems on our council, and try and fix this, and try and get it so that, number one, the first change regarding ending debate and moving the question with a simple majority, just when people are ready, they just sort of know they're ready. And you can tell when people are not bringing anything new to the conversation, but rather they're just saying the same thing over and over again. It's not adding and bringing something new that would sway somebody's mind. So I do agree that that should pass. When it comes to eliminate responses to citizens' petitions, this one I have a big problem with. I am full favor of this wholeheartedly, because for a long time now, people have been violating this law. And other counselors are trying to abide by the law, and they don't respond. And so some people get to be heard, and they know what those counselors are thinking, and the rest of us aren't saying anything because we're abiding by the law. And this created a lot of problems in our community, a lot of issues, because some people just violated the law, which I'm not a favor of. So remove personal and appointments from consent calendar. I think that's a no-brainer. I think put it on the agenda. It's an action item. One issue I do have with this, let's see, the mayor can set time limits on presentations. I always thought you had the ability to do that. Always thought you did. I don't even know if it has to be a rule. I'll put it in the rules, but I think you already have the ability. I have seen mayors before you do this. When somebody comes to give a presentation on something within the community, you can say, hey, it's a 10-minute presentation. I'm squeezing you in here. Or, it's not an actionable item, and you're trying to tell them, get them in to be in front of us. And never mind, our meetings go extremely long, and a lot of times we can't get work done, so sometimes things have to be put in on a time limit. Number 5 is putting referrals in writing. I understand the essence of this, and to the point where you want it in writing, because when somebody verbally says it, the rest of us, it could change by the time it gets to be in writing. We've seen this before. And also, this way we can all say, it doesn't mean you're in favor of it, but that you would like to hear the conversation. That's what it means. It doesn't mean you'll vote for it, that you're in favor of it, you support it. You're just saying, yes, I'm interested in hearing this at the council meeting.
Thank you. Any other counselors? Okay, I'm seeing none. I'll finish.
No, I'll follow you.
Okay. I'll just finish what I was saying briefly before. Mayor can set time limits on presentations or updates. So the way our agendas work, basically, the pattern has been, they go pretty late, and by the end of the meeting, there's always someone who's been waiting around to make a presentation or speak to us, and we have to send them home because it's looking like we're not going to get to them. And I think this will allow me to better pace the meeting and understand where we will be in the agenda at what time, to better be able to respect the time of people who come to present to the council. For example, I've had people wait for 3.5 hours, and then they had to go home, and then they had to come back for another meeting. And at the subsequent meeting, I tried to put them at the front of the agenda so that doesn't happen again. But still, I think that's very disrespectful to people's time, and I'd rather not have that happen. Just to be very clear, this is for items that have no vote. There's no vote happening. It's simply a presentation, and that presentation can take a set amount of time, and then the council can move on with their business of the day. Last rule, this one didn't originate from me, but I will say that this is how we did it last term. I know that from my understanding, you can make a referral during the meeting. The requirement is that you then also put it in writing. It's not saying you don't say it during the meeting, or you're not allowed to do it or something. It's just that after you make your referral in the meeting, you commit it to writing so that there's a specific verbiage to it, and then councilors can say whether or not they support this. This is how we did it last term, and I believe it might have actually been 3. No, I think it was 2. But my point is, you say your referral at the meeting whenever you want, sometime after the meeting, you commit it to writing, you send it to the manager, and then it gets on the agenda when it gets on the agenda. So I guess that's all I had to say. Thank you. Councilor McBride?
I was asking a clarifying question. Are these able to be voted individually? Or
Yes.
They are. Okay, that was
Yes.
just a clarifying question. That's all.
Councilor Kassirer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council rules are for function. They are for town councilors to use to ensure our meetings are smooth, running efficiently, and making sure we are able to do the business of the town. If things are not working, then of course we need to go back to the drawing board and try something else. I think we can all be honest here, these meetings are not working as efficiently as they could be. So I'm unsure why we're receiving emails about how things look suspicious, about rule changes, and how we can't adopt new rules because we adopted rules in March. But if things aren't working, we absolutely should be changing things to make sure we're doing the business for the town. So some of our meetings were going until 1 a.m. when we started this council. Time limits helped that. We have been on the council for nearly a year now. We all know my style by now. I come with my prepared statements and questions, and I'm ready to go, sometimes obnoxiously. And though I love being an organized and prepared counselor, I do it for a reason. I know that I am not a great off-the-cuff speaker, and therefore, understanding my weakness, I adapted. Many counselors have adapted. We come prepared with questions or comments. I rarely use my first 3 minutes and have never come close to my 6-minute mark. But you can all leave our meetings and you know exactly where I am. You have a better understanding of the questions I ask, and you know my thought processes on agenda items. When it comes to referrals, we have received communication stating fear that items will never make it to the referral list for the public's eyes to see. But there are referral items on our list right now that I have no idea why they are there or when they originated from. And I'm not trying to pick on Councilor Westervelt here, but he has a referral item on there about counselor laptops, and I have no idea when it came to the referral list. Yeah. So I think the new process is actually going to help make it more transparent. It's going to force counselors to put more cohesive ideas together and presenting our referrals originally so that counselors will want to sign on to them. So referrals don't have to be secret. We can come to our meetings and talk about it during our communication reports. And lastly, there have been many FOIA violations in regards to responses to citizens' petitions. Some counselors have used the time to speak more rather than asking clarifying questions. And unfortunately, I think this is the only way to prevent that from happening. And I also believe that not allowing us to ask questions will help not to deter members of the public to come speak before us. And by asking the questions, it might actually scare people. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bordelon?
Thank you. Overwhelmingly, tons of citizens have come out and spoke against any formal rule changes. With that, you know, when we look at democracy, we're elected individually as a council to serve the people. And with that, you know, democracy and that freedom of speech comes the ability to advocate for your constituents. Adding rules and implying that folks are putting an amendment on the floor to stifle or end or expand discussion is unfair, in my opinion. In my opinion, good democracy, if you go to the State House and watch how they debate, it's about compromise. So the original motion on the floor might not be a motion you can support in its entirety, so you throw an amendment on as a way of, you know that they're going to support all of this, so you make an amendment to be able to pull it together and compromise. It's about compromise. At the end of the day, it's not about who wins up here. It's if we're doing the work of the people. That's what I got elected to do. And if these rules are meant to do that and you want to change them, then that's what it's going to be. This was on here. There were counselors that were not in agreement. That's why we went back to the original platform. Again, we are elected. I shouldn't have to, any counselor should not have to get 2 other counselors to okay their referral. They were elected individually by the people, and therefore, if they think that there's something that they heard from their constituents that they want to put a referral in for, it shouldn't be a popularity contest or if everyone up here likes it or not. It should be onto the agenda. And it should make it on there, and if it's voted down, it's voted down. Also, the agenda items that are on there. There are things that have come through with lightning speed, and then other things that have sat there. To control the meeting, the mayor can control the meeting. There are agenda items that have been put on ahead of other people's for whatever reason. That's the mayor and the town manager's choice when they meet, and the agenda comes out on Thursday. Also, the mayor and the manager have the ability to not flood the agenda to make it so long that we are here late. There's nights we've been here with data centers, Respler, and other short-term rentals, and public comment. So are we rushing through at the sake of the cost of our due diligence and time? That's not what I'm up here for. So in my humble opinion, it would make sense to me to properly stack the agenda in a way that would work to benefit the community so we're not here late. I would never put short-term rentals, Mystic Oral School and data centers on the same agenda because that's a lot to discuss. So we have to weigh it. One night we were here, there was 3 or 4 presentations. Again, move those along in a different fashion. So I will not be supporting any of these rule changes tonight. I think it's not fair. I think it's unjust. And I think, again, it's stifling the voice of the elected official to do their job. And as a Democrat and as democracy, this is not the democratic way or democracy at its best. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Baumgartner?
Yes. I went through all of the proposed rule changes. I think most alarming out of the proposal was, for starters, so this is rule, if you guys want to go to, guys and gals, page 27. This is regarding the removal, I'm sorry, not of the time limits. So it says the mayor can set time limits on presentations or updates to preserve the order. I apologize. No, this is regarding, looking here. So Rule 7A6. So that would be, on page 26. So response to citizens' petitions. So that is the one area where I think all of us, and I certainly don't want to speak for every counselor, but all of us would probably give a very different response as to what is a proper response to citizens' petitions. When I first started out on the council, oftentimes we would go kind of round robin, and if the public spoke on an item of concern, whether it was, say, short-term rentals or something that's going on in their neighborhood, oftentimes counselors would ask to reach out to them offline to learn more information, but even sometimes opine on it. And that was an established precedent for some time. What has been unclear is what the actual guidance is from the FOIA Commission. And I think that's where it would be helpful. And though, certainly we've heard it, a very in-depth presentation and explanation from our town clerk. But I do think it would be valuable to have it from the source itself. In the past, I know Tom Hennick has provided presentations to our council, and I think it would behoove certainly this council and the 33rd council to hear a presentation from Mr. Hennick on specific FOI statutes. So I think that is something that ought to be done, especially before moving forward with any rule change regarding this. And I will tell you, on this item, this is a really tough one to have speaking limits on, because I will definitely need to use my second round of speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Franco?
Thank you. I know when we're elected, Tom Hennick comes to our town every new election, gives a, training session to all elected officials. I think I've gone to every single one of them since every term. I've also just recently made a referral asking for council responsibilities in relation to, the rules and the laws and the charter and everything else, asking that we have a presentation here with our council because there are issues. I also, in that referral, asked for Tom Hennick to come to our council and make a presentation to us. So not just we can hear it, but the community can hear it from him themselves. And because of this, John Burt had, I guess, reached out to Tom Hennick, and we did receive an email today and regarding response to citizens petition, and if you would allow for me to read it, if you don't mind.
You said a correspondence from Tom Hennick?
Yes.
Sure.
So, hi, John. I've been away for a few weeks, so apologize for the delayed response. If I understand your question correctly, it is whether items brought up during your report or public comment can be discussed by council members if those items are not on the agenda. In my opinion, they could be easily discussed briefly. Example, if your report, you mentioned the resolution of an issue and one of the councilors has questions that can be answered. However, if items are raised that are not on the agenda that cannot be answered with a yes or no or a short answer, then I would say that a vote would have to be taken to add those items to the agenda. Obviously, if the meeting is a special meeting, the items should be sent to the next agenda. I hope this helps, and if you would like to discuss further, feel free to reach out. This is the same question that has been asked over and over again of Tom Hennick. He continually gives the same response. I've asked him at the training session that we had at the very beginning, that specific question. He answered it. It's videotaped. It's on videotape. So it surprises me that some people just don't understand and they want to keep continually answering the public when we have been told it's against the law if it's not on our agenda. It's not as if, if you just want to say, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, that's one thing. But to go into discussion and your thoughts and what should be done and all this stuff, that is an agenda item, and there's a difference. So, and I have continually point of ordered people on this, and they have continually done it over and over again. So the only way it seems to stop people from breaking the law on this act is to remove the possibility for them to do it. And it's sad, and I get it's sad that this is where we're at. But this is how it should be done. I don't know any other way. It's been a year now, and it's not getting better.
Thank you. Councilor McBride.
Thank you. Excuse me. So with regards to number one, I think I'm a proponent of Robert's rules. It stood the test of time. It's worked very well. So I'm going to oppose number one. I actually think it will create more discontent with this council. And in my opinion, we have some dysfunctional going on already. And I think if we move that to a simple majority, I think it's going to cause greater issues and give the appearance of one-sidedness. So I will be opposing number one for those reasons. I think there's other ways we can work to become a stronger council. I don't think that's a solution. With regards to number two, I would concur with Councilor Baumgartner, and I think this needs some improvement. There's other things we can do, but I'm not in favor of eliminating responses to citizens. However, I do think there does need to be some clarity around that, and maybe, although I'm not a fan of time limits, maybe if each counselor had time limits on their response, we would be more succinct in our comments back to the residents, and maybe our meetings wouldn't be as long. It would still provide the ability to make comments, but it would make sure every counselor was succinct in their comments and their clarification points. With regards to number three, I would agree with Councilor Franco. I would be okay with that as well. It's not a big deal. With regards to number four, I also agree with Councilor Franco that I think that is already allowed, so I'm not sure that's necessary. I actually think if we were to vote on it, it would send the wrong message that the mayor does not have the power to do that. So I would take that completely out of the agenda, because I don't think you should refrain the ability of the mayor to have that power that he or she has. With regards to number five, I'm actually opposed to this as well. I would concur with Councilor Bordelon on her thoughts. I think referrals should be made in public. I think it should be made, as I think I only made one referral, I made it in a meeting. But I do agree with the mayor in that there's more documentation, more information needs to be had. But I do think it needs to be made in public. And then I think we as a council should get together, and more so with regards to the referrals. I think this council should review that listing and prioritize it. I've never been anywhere in my life we have a listing that long and it's not prioritized, and I think it's up to the council to prioritize what's important to move on. So I will be voting against number five as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Baumgartner.
Do you have your hands? All right. So, in response to some of the statements made, my question is, what if an item is on the agenda? And I think that's what has happened in a lot of cases on this council, where speakers on this council have responded, and those speakers have been point of ordered repeatedly to the point where that counselor can't even get a word in. We are a very diverse body. We all have different varying viewpoints. I know Councilor McBride and Councilor Westervelt have heard this speech until they're blue in the face on the personnel and appointments. We're all different, but we can somehow find consensus. And so I would implore this legislative body to do the same. We will not always agree on the issue, but I will fight like heck to ensure that you have the right to defend your position, to hold that position. And I just fear that some of these rules were to advance, we would be limiting our fellow councilors' abilities to speak freely. All of us were duly elected by the public. All 9 of us received more votes than any other candidate on the ballot for town council. And so I will fight like heck to ensure that each and every one of you have that right to speak out on concerns that you care about. That is fundamental to this democracy. It's fundamental to the Groton that I know and I've loved and served for years. So my other question, or I guess statement on just some of these rules changes is, I am not opposed to removing, for example, the appointments from the consent calendar. I just take issue with the way that we've gone about it as far as this rules changes goes. It never made much sense to me that the reports, for example, on appointments would come after it would be passed on consent. But what I also am a bit perplexed and confused by as to why in the last few months, sometimes we voted on personnel and appointments on consent, but when it's perhaps polarizing or certain counselors don't agree with certain appointments or certain people who have put their name forward, then it's not on consent. So I do think there needs to be some clarity on that. And I would agree with really all that Councilor McBride stated. And I would implore each and every counselor before voting on these rules to think about what would happen in the case where perhaps this body were not maintaining a controlling majority. If we're in the position where we were silenced or you were silenced, how would you feel? Thank you.
I have a point of
Thank you.
information.
What's your point of information?
So the Rules Committee brought this forward, and it's a recommendation, correct?
Correct.
And does the Personnel and Appointments Committee, do they bring referrals forward, and those are just recommendations as well that we would vote on?
Yeah,
So they're equal.
right, they're both recommendations.
All right, so one doesn't deserve to get voted through just because of recommendation, and the other one could be like hashed out. I mean, they're equals. They can all
Right.
be discussed and hashed out. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Council Borland, I have you down having spoken twice. Are you requesting a third turn?
I always spoke one full rule.
Okay.
That's why, unless you have something different.
I do, but I could be wrong. You can have your second turn. I just had it, I must have misread, so you have the floor.
No, I just want to say again, I can agree with Councilor McBride in his statements, and again, when it comes to the budget season, which is what we're supposed to be up here being, is fiscally responsible and being the arbiter and voice for the community, there are times when numbers are moved on the floor, and by moving this and saying that if someone makes an amended motion, during a budget season, we make tons of amended numbers. Passing this rule would shut down that debate and that discussion on items that are requiring more insight. It's also important that when a person makes an amended motion, that you do get another chance to speak, because it's another opportunity to look at another number or another item or another wording of an item and consider it. It was stated that, counselors come prepared. I must state that I do come prepared. I read all this, but what I don't come prepared is with my opinion already set. And the reason I ask the questions I do is because sometimes I'm enlightened by other community constituents that speak at public comment, as well as emails I received right up to the last minute sometimes papers that we get from the town manager that just came through at the last minute that are sitting here, as well as some of the opinions and insights by other fellow counselors that bring up that they heard in the community. I might come in here fully prepared and read everything, but my change or my time to deliberate is important because I'm deciding on my feet based on what I heard. I shouldn't come up here with a decision that's already preconceived, and I should not have if I'm working for the people, I shouldn't have my decision already mapped out, and I don't. I come here under the full democracy of listening to the folks, reading, and then understanding. And sometimes up here, the way I think I'm going to vote has been changed by public comment, people speaking out, emails, just the dialogue going back with the counselors. And a lot of times, you just need the chance to compromise to come to a middle ground. You know, a new amendment's put on. It's not your chosen amendment, but it's an amendment that you can sit comfortably with. And it's a compromise vote, and it moves it along. So again, I just encourage that we find a way. I agree to get these agenda items up here. I like the idea of prioritizing them. And I think it's really important to make sure the agenda is stacked in a way that's going to support the flow of the evening. It should not be rushed along just because people don't want to be here late. Then let's cut the agendas down, and we have to give it our proper due diligence. What else is here? Again, I just will not be supporting any of these based on the way that they are written. And someone could throw an amendment on the floor. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right, and that would allow more discussion. So I encourage other counselors to amend if they need to. Thank you.
Councilor Westervelt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking at these rule changes, I can understand where they came from, but just a couple of things that I am in opposition to. With rule number one, I mean, debate is the foundation of our democracy, and if we have to take extra time to debate something, I mean, I don't like going home at 1 o'clock, and I hated it the couple times where we were really late, but I know more information for me to get from continued debate makes me more comfortable with the issues that I'm voting on. So that's my opinion of that. And I do wish we had a better grasp on the responses to citizens' petitions, because I was under the impression that I could ask a question. Apparently I was wrong. I need more understanding of how that works, but not having the ability to talk to citizens who come up here and have concerns, not being able to talk to them, to me, just seems like we're shutting them out. You can talk, but we're, you know, once you're done talking, you might as well leave, because we're not going to be able to talk to you again. And I don't think that that's fair. And then just kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing here with the referral that I have on the laptops, just to clear the air on that. I made a referral when we first started, and it was about surplus laptops from the Board of Ed or someplace else where we could have something that would be easily FOIable, easily turned back in if they had, you know, concerns or something needed to be looked at. Turned out, and Mr. Burt and I went through this a few months ago, actually, and this has been removed for quite some time. It was going to be something that we could not get support from Board of Ed. It was going to end up costing the town money, so I withdrew my referral for that at that time, because I didn't think we needed to spend money like that. So just wanted to make sure that that was clear to everyone, that that's no longer on the agenda, or excuse me, no longer in the referral list. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Kasiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I promise you, Councilor Westervelt, that was not a jab. I truly,
Oh, no, that's
I truly
fine.
didn't know. Okay.
I was surprised because I thought it was dead a long time ago.
Okay.
So,
Clerk McCousher, can you briefly go over what a point of order is?
Well, when someone's speaking on a subject and they may veer off to another subject, it's no longer on the subject, and a point of order will be made to get the person back to the subject. That's one example. But there's other examples of point of order.
Great. And every counselor has an opportunity to point of order?
It's part of your rules, because you say if you don't have a rule I believe your rules say, if you don't have a rule in the town council rules, then you refer to Robert's rules of order.
Great. And the mayor deliberates on our points of order, correct?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you for that.
But if there's if the mayor makes a ruling and the person who's being ruled against disagrees, then it goes to the Rules Committee, right then. They have a mini meeting. I
Thank
don't
you.
think it's ever happened, but that's what your rules say.
Thank you for that, Town Clerk. Chair Parker, our rule changes have nothing to do with requesting the third round of speaking, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. The best part about coming prepared, because I feel like I have to clarify this, is you can adapt and you can tweak your comments and your questions. I'm not up here doodling the whole time, I promise, or playing tic-tac-toe. I'm scribbling new questions and adapting as we are having conversations. And I'm sorry, but 1 a.m. is not respectful to town staff. It's not respectful to the public, and it's not respectful to us as counselors, because we are not doing our best work at 1 a.m. for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other discussion, I'll call for a vote, and we will take these in turn.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. McBride had his hand up. Yeah, I was trying.
Okay. Councilor McBride?
Thank you. I would like to make an amendment for number 2 in an attempt, and the amendment would be in an attempt to decrease the amount of time the council spends on responses to citizens' petitions by placing a time limit for each councilor's responses to 5 minutes.
Okay, so is there a second on this?
I'll second it.
Okay. So Councilor McBride has a motion. So this is, instead of eliminate, it just says,
5 minutes apiece, is that what you
right.
said?
Yeah,
Okay.
5 minutes response.
Bride, Bordelon. Councilor Parker?
I have concerns with that because we only have 3 minutes to do our regular deliberation, which is a total of 6 minutes. But that's after everyone has spoken, 3 minutes the first time, then there's a second opportunity. So the question would be, you want them to speak 5 minutes total. This is similar to the citizens speaking time limit. That's my question.
I'm okay with 3 minutes if that's what you're saying. I don't fully understand the question, but my attempt is that I think there's a desire to decrease the amount of time we spend on responses to, comments. And I thought it would still allow for, even if it was 3 minutes. I would amend the motion to 3 if that's satisfactory.
We are only supposed to ask yes or no questions of the public. If we cannot hear the public speak, then we ask if they could speak louder or ask them to restate, for instance, their address. Because sometimes you can't hear it when they're saying something. Could you please tell us your address? Could you please repeat what you just said? You ask a question, it's either a yes or no answer. It's not for us to debate, to give opinions at that time. And in order for us to make sure that we're not violating anything, I feel we need to eliminate the whole thing and not have speaking, because it'll be going back and forth, and we do not need back and forth because that's debating, or because someone may come up and have a difference of opinion, and we'll end up debating the citizen, and I don't want that to happen.
Thank you. Okay. I'm not seeing any other discussion, so we will vote first on Councilor McBride's.
So we're doing number 2 first,
Right.
instead of just going through the list?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes, he made an amendment first.
yeah.
You-
So we'll just do the amendment first. So after the amendment, if it fails, we'll go to 1. But if it passes, I don't know. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Just to clarify, your initial motion was included all of the proposed changes. So if this were to fail, it would revert to the motion on the floor, which would not be a motion based off of each section.
Right.
It would be based off of the entire
Right.
proposal, correct?
No, you make a good point. Clerk McCousher, the motion was the whole thing. Can we vote 111?
The council can vote to do that, so you'd have to get somebody make a motion we're going to vote on. So make a motion
Okay.
to vote each individually.
Okay,
Because
so-
you made a motion, just the whole thing.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to vote Rules 1 through 5 separately. So moved.
Second, Kasiri.
Okay, moved by Melendez, seconded by Kasiri. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. Okay. So,
Now on to his amendment.
okay, so we'll vote on Councilor McBride's amendment. To be clear, instead of reading eliminate response to citizen petitions, it'll just say, or we're still at 5 minutes.
I think I amended it for 3 minutes.
Okay.
I don't know if Mike- if it was second.
Okay. We'll go friendly amendment to 3 minutes. Speaking time per counselor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, hold on. So I got opposed. Parker, Franco, Jones, Kasiri, Melendez. Okay, abstaining? Okay, so it fails 4 in favor. Baumgartner, Bordelon, Westervelt, and McBride, 5 opposed, 0 abstaining. So we're back to the main motion. We'll start with number 1, and it's as written as in your agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, carries 5 in favor, 4 opposed. Baumgartner, Bordelon, McBride, Westervelt, 0 abstaining. On to roll 2. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, abstentions? Carries 5 in favor, 4 opposed. McBride, Bordelon, Baumgartner, Westervelt. On to roll 3. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain from that one.
Carries 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstaining. Bordelon. Roll 4. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions?
I'm abstaining.
Okay.
I'm
So,
not abstaining, I'm sorry, I'm voting not in favor, I apologize.
okay. So I've got 6 in favor, 3 opposed. Bordelon, McBride, Baumgartner, and 0 abstentions. That carries. Rule 5, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Carries 5 in favor, 4 opposed. Baumgartner, Bordelon, Westervelt, and McBride. On to Mystic Education Center Development Agreement.
I'd be happy to read it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Make a motion to adopt a resolution to continue mediation with Respler Homes LLC for the Mystic Education Center property. Whereas the town of Groton and the state of Connecticut issued a joint request for proposals for the redevelopment of state-owned property located at 240 Oral School Road and 0 Oral School Road in Groton. And whereas Respler Homes LLC, or Respler, submitted a proposal for a mixed redevelopment on February 15, 2018, and whereas the town of Groton entered into a development agreement, or the agreement, with Respler on February 11, 2020, and whereas the town of Groton and Respler experienced a difference of opinion on requirements of the development agreement, and the town subsequently participated in a negotiation session on February 11, 2020, pursuant to Section 12.02 of the agreement. And whereas following an unsuccessful negotiation, the town of Groton submitted a letter on October 25th, 2021, notifying Respler that the town demanded that the parties submit to non-binding mediation pursuant to Section 12-03 of the agreement, and whereas the mediation process was paused in order for Respler to determine what would happen to the purchase agreement for the property between Respler and the state of Connecticut, and whereas David Lehman, the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development Commissioner, submitted a letter on October 4th, 2022, providing Respler notice that the purchase agreement between them and the state of Connecticut would terminate on October 14th, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that the Groton Town Council directs the town manager and town attorneys to continue the mediation process required by the development agreement and to authorize that town manager, in consultation with the town attorney, upon conclusion of the mediation, to take such appropriate measures as are allowed by such contract, including termination. I so move.
Second, Bordelon.
Moved by Kasiri, seconded by Bordelon. Council Baumgartner?
Yes, is town manager on the line?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, John. Just a question regarding who is allowed into the room for mediation. Can you speak to the public as to who is permitted to be in the room during mediation?
It'll be just Respler's attorney and Respler, I anticipate. No Blue Lotus. And then me, two town attorneys, and probably a couple of the planning staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council Westervelt?
Mr. Burt, could you, under the resolve portion of this, it says upon conclusion of the mediation.
Your microphone is up.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
can
Upon
hear.
completion of the mediation or conclusion of the mediation, is that a time limit type thing, or how long can we expect this mediation to go?
I don't anticipate it taking long.
Okay.
I'd rather not get into it further just for legal reasons.
Nope, that's fine. But there's obviously a finite period. At some point, it ends. So, okay, thank you very much.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 9 in favor. On to manager of PNR services, job description and office clerk position. Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution updating the manager of Parks and Recreation Services job description and adding an additional office clerk position, whereas the manager of Parks and Recreation Service position was recently vacated, and whereas in order to realign the position with current division goals and objectives, there was a need to update the current job description, and whereas during the review of the overall structure of the Parks and Recreation Department, it was determined that there was a need for an additional part-time office clerk position to assist with the increase in programs and services now, and therefore be it resolved that the Town Council hereby approves the revised Manager of Parks and Recreation Services job description and the addition of a part-time 19-hour per week office clerk position in the Parks and Recreation Services Department. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jones, seconded by Franco. Council Bordelon?
Yes, is it appropriate that we vote this as a joint versus just approving the amendment to the position as well as the clerk position being a separate item? Because I could see folks that maybe don't want it out of the position, but, you know, like, I think those should be separate. I'm just a little confused. That's for the town manager.
Original motion was together, so that's what goes to the council. Council would have to amend it or do another motion if they want to change it.
Right, because I mean, it's just, you could be for one but not the other. Just seems a little bit all packaged up. Can you speak to the clerk position and the need for that position, the 19 hours, John?
No, I'm not prepared to speak on that. Mark Berry spoke on that quite a lot at the last meeting.
So you have nothing else to present new about that position?
No, typically we don't present anything else at the regular council meeting.
Counselor McBride?
Yes, thank you. I'm in favor of this position. I'm not in favor of the timing of this position. As I I was opposed to it at the council of the whole meeting. The reason being is I think part of the budgetary process should be any new hires should come up at that time. I don't, I'm sure the money's available somewhere, but when we go through a budget process, we allocate dollars for certain things, and department heads review their needs, and I don't approve adding new hires during the year unless it's an emergency action of some need, so I'm not going to be supporting this because of that, but I did like Councilor Bordelon's idea. I do support the department, I support the extension of the job description that was reviewed, but I don't think the timing to be fiscally conservative and constraint timing is appropriate to add a new position, so I won't be supporting this at this time.
May I make a motion to amend? I just make a motion to separate these out.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion by Counselor Bordelon and a second by Counselor McBride. Okay, and this to vote on the updating the manager of Parks and Recreation Services job description separate from the adding an additional office clerk position. Counselor Bordelon.
Thank you. I can agree. I think it is, very important to be fiscally responsible, and it is a great point that Councilor McBride made, that this was identified and, it was not brought up then. It doesn't mean we're opposed to it, but we should kind of, get the new position set, and let's get the person in that position and see what the needs are at that time. I'm just a little concerned that we're just kind of bundling it in, and taxpayers are not really paying attention to the budgetary needs right now. And so that's why I was concerned with the whole thing packaged up.
Counselor Franco.
It's been, I'm not trying to call a counselor out, but it's been mentioned numerous times by a particular counselor that we should be doing this in the budget session, and we've responded to, I've responded to it, I know other people, even town staff, there is no time to put everything that we do throughout the year into the budget session. Because the way, maybe other towns do things differently than Groton, but usually we set our legislation up throughout the year, and then normally it starts at the budget, so it will be put into the budget. So we're making our decisions, because like ordinances, to put an ordinance through with a budget is extremely difficult. I understand adding positions and things of that nature, but I think it was clearly stated that they have money left over from a position that hasn't been filled, and that's what they're going to fill that position with, and use that funding to fill this position with to the end of this fiscal year. And then next budget session, it'll be on our agenda, our budget deliberations on whether we want to keep the position or not, or maybe even add to those and add more to it if it's necessary. But I understand it might, in other towns, they might do these type of things, but here, this is usually how our business is done. And I think to vote against things because you think it should be in the budget, when in reality, that's not how the business is done. I think it's sort of going against the way the council does business and the norms of the council. If you want to bring up it as a separate agenda item and discuss it, that'd be a situation. But I think it's you can't just vote against things, and well, you can, but to give the excuse of it should be in the budget, I don't think is consistently a good practice. Thank you.
Counselor Kasiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify, Mr. Mayor, do we vote on these as a joint item in the COW?
Yes.
Okay, and that's where we did all of our work, correct?
Right.
Okay, thank you. I just want to alert the public that our description, okay, so that we need a manager of Parks and Recreation. So that position is open. And because there's been structural changes, Parks and Rec is identifying that they need an additional, they need more help, basically. So I just want to clarify to the public that this hasn't come out of anywhere, out of nowhere. They are restructuring, and now they're identifying that need. Thank you.
Counselor Baumgartner.
Yes, will this position be union, Mr. Burt?
In part-time, I'm not sure. I'd have to actually check on that.
Okay.
Let me see what I can find if you come back to me.
We have a lot of part-time people.
Okay, and as far as the manager of Parks and Rec, I understand there is an opening for the position. Has the position, has it been posted yet? Or are we waiting to, obviously, revamp the job description?
I don't think he heard you.
Manager Burt?
I know, it hasn't
The
been
answer is it
posted.
hasn't
It
been
hasn't been
posted, but just from the manager. Yeah.
Do you think he's looking at the union contract?
Right. Yeah, the answer is it hasn't been posted.
It has not been posted?
No.
Right.
Okay.
I post them, so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. And this is, again, on just splitting up both items. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, abstentions? Okay, so I've got 6 in favor, 3 opposed. Jones, Kasiri, and Parker, 0 abstaining. All right. So we'll vote first on the updating the manager of Parks and Recreation Services job description. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 9 in favor. We'll now vote on the adding an additional office clerk position. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, carries 5 in favor, 4 opposed. Westervelt, Bordelon, McBride, Baumgartner, 0 abstaining. On to Emergency Management Performance Grant.
I'll read this one.
Thank you.
Resolution authorizing application for Emergency Management Performance Grant. Whereas the Emergency Management Performance Grant, MEPG, is to provide states with the ability to assist state, local, territorial, and tribal governments in preparing for all hazards as authorized by the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act. And whereas the town of Groton is eligible to receive state and federal grant funds through the Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, and whereas since 2004, as one of the conditions of eligibility, the state requires that the governing body of each municipality, in our case, the town of Groton, the town council, issue a resolution authorizing the chief executive officer, town manager, to act on behalf of the municipality and governing body, and now therefore be resolved that the town council authorizes town manager John Burt to act on behalf of the town of Groton, including executing any and all documents, and to perform all acts and things deemed necessary and or appropriate to carry out the terms of the grant program, and to accept the grant in the amount of $40,357.80.
Second.
Moved by Franco, seconded by Parker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 9 in favor.
I'll
On to-
read the next one if you like.
Thank you.
The 2022-674 ARPA Auto Theft and Violence Grant. Resolution authorizing application for an ARPA Auto Theft and Violence Grant. Whereas the state of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection is offering a $35,000 grant to eligible municipalities to reduce auto theft and other crimes related to auto theft in our communities. And whereas the funding will pay for increased police patrols to help deter these criminal acts from taking place, which in turn will serve the general population by reducing auto thefts and auto theft-related crimes. And whereas the funding for our department's project will be used to support the deployment of extra patrol units dedicated to combating the rise in auto theft and violent crime in our town, and whereas officers will be utilized in a flexible manner to saturate our known locations for stolen vehicles and violent crimes such as hotels, bars, large parking lots, and neighborhoods known to have a higher rate of stolen vehicles and violent crimes, and officers will also be required to engage with citizens of our community to educate them on helpful preventive or prevention strategies they can utilize to help prevent vehicle crimes. And whereas the use of both marked police vehicles and soft cars, unmarked vehicles, will be utilized to increase our presence at the aforementioned locations in order to ensure our community is safe. And now therefore be it resolved that the town council authorizes the town manager, John Burt, to act on behalf of the town of Groton, including executing any and all documents and to perform all acts and things deemed necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of the grant program, and to accept the grant in the amount of $35,000.
Second.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I asked the town manager if either one of these grants have to go to the RTM. I don't know if that was discussed in COW.
These two should both go to the RTM. The language should have been in the resolutions, but it's not required because it's law or charter to go there anyways. It just can happen automatically. We've had a legal opinion on this prior, so there's no need to change anything, other than if you want to change the current one.
Just to add it to go to the RTM. Does it have to go 653 or it can just go regular?
I didn't get the impression it was that I didn't get the impression it was that
I don't know either.
that urgent, as long as we
I'll get that answer tomorrow.
can move forward. Yeah, I think it's fine going regular.
Either way.
So I'll add to the resolution that this will go to the RTM.
Second, Parker.
Moved by Westervelt, seconded by Parker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 9 in favor.
Mr. Mayor, I'll read them.
Thank you.
Okay. 2022-543 Clarchester School Property Reuse. And resolution authorizing Kent and Frost to continue the work outlined in the contract with the town of Groton for the Clarchester Property Reuse Study. Whereas the data collected identified high, medium, and low priority uses of the property, and whereas conceptual plans will be presented to the town council and to the public for feedback, and whereas once the conceptual plans have been presented to the town council and public for feedback, Kent and Frost will develop a master plan and cost estimates for the property based upon the data collected and the public feedback. And now therefore be it resolved that the town council authorize Kent and Frost to develop plans for the Clarchester property reuse study based on the data collected from the public visioning session and online survey. I so move.
Second, Franco.
Moved by Parker, seconded by Franco. Council Bordelon?
Thank you. As I stated at the last meeting, I will not be supporting this, not because I don't believe in the vision of Frost and their vision and the help of Groton or the development of Clarchester, but simply the data from Parks and Rec from a couple years ago. Times have changed in our town since the cost of inflation, as well as after COVID. We're seeing heating and oil costs go up, and a lot of financial burdens are placed upon taxpayers currently. And so even though that data is from 2 years ago, the wants and needs of the town now may have changed. We did have the public forum. Again, I stated there was about 50 people there, and about maybe 20 of them were kind of non-involved, either not serving on a board or an elected official on the council of the RTM. So that only leaves about 20 people that were putting the stickers up. I said I could move forward with this if we had a public comment, which I did ask at the last meeting. Town manager said it would not hold the process up. We could have had a public hearing tonight. So it would have been public comment, and there would have been a line for a public hearing on Clarchester. So at this time, I do not support moving this forward without having at least the public hearing, just to regain the pulse of the community. So I will not be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Kasseri?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify that Yes, there was a survey done 2 years ago, which Mr. Berry, if you watched the last meeting, indicated was a statistically valid survey, which means it represents the sample size of Groton, which that survey actually matched the recent outreach that Mr. Frost had done this past June, and then they were seeking online support. And I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Parker?
No, I just wanted to say, I went to Gloucester, so it's bittersweet that it's closed. And one of my children did go there for a year. And just as a FYI, it's going to be hard to see Harry Day Drive gone. Mrs. Moretta was part of a staple in that school, so all the teachers that work there, thanks to current, or past, I should say, Principal Giordano, they did a wonderful job in working for the community. So it's a bittersweet to see that this is going to change, but I'm hoping it's going to expand better for the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Kassiri?
Sorry, I remember what I was going to say. And Mr. Frost indicated, if you watched the last meeting, that the responses that we received based on that survey and the public input from the in-person was actually some of the highest that he had seen in the towns that he has worked with. So I'm really happy with the community outreach that was done. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Franco?
Thank you. I'd like to jump off of your comments as well, and I also went to Gloucester when Mr. Day was the principal, and it is a school that truly served its community, and the challenges that they faced were sometimes different than other schools. And the things that they did for the people in their school were astounding, and I hope that whatever our council chooses to do in the future will do something great for our community and potentially leave the name of the street, because he was somebody special. So, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor McBride?
Thank you. I just want to inform everyone that I was initially in favor of having the referendum or the public hearing tonight. However, when I delved into, found more information about this, my questions were really relating to two things. The cost implications of all of the projects are on this list, because I don't think, although the report was terrific and well documented, had support from prior studies, I think the residents really need to see dollars associated with each of these projects before we can get true feedback from what the residents want. So that was my first concern, that it didn't have that. I was hoping we could go to the community with that information. I also had concerns regarding how much financing the town has, because I was told throughout the budget process we couldn't do this, because we were at our near capability of our financing. So I have concerns that I think that needs to be brought forward to the residents as well as they discuss this. And I was pretty much informed that all of this information, other financial information, couldn't be brought forward for this public hearing, that it would be brought forward in the future. So I look at this public hearing, I look at this moving forward without the public hearing to be the proper choice, because I don't think we can go any more forward until we release them to go forward and get real details, project proposals and cost estimates, and then we can align our financing bonding as well. So I'm in favor of this, but I just want to let everybody know I think the costs are what is key to moving this forward, and we'll get that with the next study. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Baumgartner?
Yes, great comments by fellow counselors. Would just implore, as we continue going down this process, that we keep the residents, especially at Pequannock Bridge and the surrounding neighborhoods, first and foremost, when we ultimately make decisions as how the public spaces will be used. It's critical, no matter what the neighborhood is, that, really, that all neighborhoods matter when it pertains to decisions that we make. And so we just ask our council and our town that as we move forward with this process, that we keep the residents, and especially children, first and foremost.
Thank you. Counselor Bordelon?
Also, as it was stated, and it was also stated at the Proper Use Committee, keeping the native trees that are already there, that are, I should say, the mature trees, when looking at development as well, making sure that we're keeping that for the reasons that were, stated under public comment tonight, and also were stated at the Public Reuse Committee, that, it takes long time to get back to that level of tree coverage, and there is some tree coverage on the side along the Pequannock Plains Park as it joins, so I just, hope when they design that they are sticking to what we as a council had signed on for as being more kind of environmentally sound and looking through the lenses of the environmental side of things when proposing items. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Carries 8 in favor, 1 opposed, Bordelon, 0 abstaining. On to other business.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Bordelon, seconded by Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Abstentions? Carries 7 in favor, 2 opposed, Westervelt, McBride, 0 abstaining.